Welcome back to the Analyst Desk at the European LCS, where we are joined by the coach for the Unicorns of Love, Sheepy. Up next, the Copenhagen Wolves will look to take a win off SK Gaming as the window to lock in a playoff spot is slowly closing. The Wolves cannot clinch today, but a win here will make Week 9 a lot easier for them. Before we get into that, though, how are you doing?
I'm still feeling a little bit shaky. That was unreal, the game. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was unreal. But, I mean, I guess your plan worked out and then Power People got fed and...
Yeah, it didn't look that shaky, our plan and the planning phase, but, you know...
It was all for the fans.
Yeah, it was all for the fans. Yeah. Double low HP next.
Well, let's dive into this matchup right here, though, and let's start by taking a look at the lineup for the #1 placed SK Gaming. Freddy122, Svenskeren, Fox, Forgiven, and Rated and Innerflame. They had to adapt after IEM as they didn't do so good there whenever Lulu was taken away and the Lucian and the Graves were also not available. What did you make of their performance yesterday, the first time that they were forced into doing something more late game with the AD carry?
Yeah, their performance for sure was a little bit shaky yesterday. Like, they are the top team again, facing the last team in the standings almost, and then they almost dropped the ball there. But yeah, they just need to try to adapt how to work without like Forgiven and Enrated just completely snowballing the bottom lane and winning the game from that.
Yeah, I do believe that it was you also a couple of weeks ago that pointed out the weaknesses for SK Gaming. Do you feel that there's an improvement here and that maybe the fact that their eyes were opened at IEM will make them very much stronger?
I think that they played a little bit out of their style playing this Tristana, and usually they have this very, very aggressive, like any Nami, Graves, bot lane, like very, very strong, and then just push the lane 24/7 and have this overall aggression over all the lanes. Seeing them play a different style is maybe their way to adapt to, you know, the more tanky, heavy metagame that is going to come with Tristana, which should be a really strong pick coming up.
What has been your opinion on Fox lately? You're, of course, coaching a team that has a very, very strong mid laner, but Fox the last couple of weeks, maybe he does need to step up a little more.
I hope that we see more of Fox. I always thought that he's one of the strongest European mid laner, and he consistently showed over and over that he can actually perform at the top level and win a lot of 1v1s and do really well. So I think hopefully we see him on like a very comfortable champion, and then he can show again what he's actually made of.
Yeah, one of the main problems yesterday, like Pepiner was basically 1v2ing Svenskeren and Fox as well, which is kind of sad for the rest of the team. But
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. It wasn't a high kill game, and Fox didn't really have his game for SK, and he had 25% of his team's deaths. That is also not really something you want, of course, as a mid laner. Let's move on to the Copenhagen Wolves, though, and they're on the red side of the rift, and of course their lineup with Youngbuck, Airwax, Soren, Freeze, Unlimited, and their coach, Dentist. They got outplayed by the Unicorns of Love yesterday. It's fair to say that, and Freeze also said it. Things were just not going as planned. How come you guys could dismantle them that quickly in the early game?
They had a really interesting team comp. Playing the Karthus, I think, is a pick that is coming out way more. The slow is really, really strong in the laning phase. You can just hold onto to this point where you're basically level 16 and the support is level 12 and you take half HP instantly. Same from the carries. And the carries need to be strong because the tanky junglers and overall the tankiness of the teams with double tank is getting way higher. So I think that the Karthus pick was really good, and they tried to transition to late game. They took too many fights early when they didn't reach their power spike, and I hope that I see them identifying the power spikes way better in this game.
Yeah, and also, as you mentioned, playing with those tanks. They did have a Sejuani up there as well, but it didn't work out, and not the early pressure maybe lacking. Although it isn't that easy with Sejuani, but we know now with the new items, he should be able to put down a lot more pressure.
Yeah, just Power of Evil didn't get punished at all for pushing Karthus on the turret all game, and then Nunu was just running in the jungle, like I mentioned yesterday as well, warding everything, and that's basically what lost the game. Just the vision was completely for Unicorns.
Yeah, so if we look at this matchup specifically, SK versus the Copenhagen Wolves, the fact that SK is struggling a little bit, not struggling, or is having to adapt to playing those late game AD carries, is Copenhagen Wolves the team to upset them in that?
I can see them winning this game. I've heard from Dentist how well the team comp is usually working and how well they do in scrims, and I'm actually good friends with him as well. And, I think that if they pick something similar and go this very heavy engage with three horns, as they call it, the Righteous Glory, to just go on the enemy, This might be something that the struggling or the kind of struggling adapting SK might struggle with the hard engage, and as well the Copenhagen Wolf style is very, very aggressive if it comes into those 20 minutes and power spikes.
Yeah, indeed. We will see Dentist good friends with you, good friends with Leviathan, good friends with everybody. He's just
Dentist
being a spy,
is just
man.
friendly
Yeah.
overall.
Or he's just trying to get all the info.
Personally, I hate dentists. but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, then. On that note, with things set on stage, we're going to kick it back over to Quick Fishio and load up on Picks and Bans.
Cyanide with the real talk. Damn, son. Doesn't pull no punches. Thank you guys for that one. We're about to jump into the game. SK versus Copenhagen Wolves with Unicorns of Love picking up that win a moment or two ago. Copenhagen Wolves at a record of 7-8. Really cannot afford to lose games because they may drop closer to that 6th position, 6th, 7th,
Yep.
flirting with fire.
I mean, again, they are sitting as number 6 now. Elements getting close, pushing them out of playoffs. SK Gaming yesterday, however, they didn't look that great against Giants Gaming. They lost the early game because they didn't get Graves and Lucian. First ban is a LeBlanc. I like that against SK Gaming. It's clearly been the best pick for them in the mid lane. Question is, are we going to get this double AD carry ban now from the Wolves?
Yeah. 2 wins, 1 loss for Fox on
We
that
are
champion, and heavy mid lane focus with that Cassio Diana band out as well. And obviously the Nidalee and LeBlanc to round out the first 2.
All right, Diana is a good pick, but I don't feel like you have to ban it. I mean, it's not been that dominant on the champion. And it's also one you could gank really easily in that mid lane where we know they like to play very aggressive from SK Gaming side. So Forgiven will get one of these AD carries. Doesn't have to default to the likes of a Tristana, as we saw yesterday. And obviously Rek'Sai is left open if Svensson wants it. Seems like he's good to go on that one. Still fairly easy, fairly predictable with these jungle picks. Sejuani, however, for Airworks would most likely just be the response.
So Copenhagen Wolves have opted to play hard mode against SK Gaming. Going to give Forgiven and Enrated the pick of the litter when it comes to their AD carry and support picks. And SK had a fantastic team comp style that got them to 12-3. Let's see if they play
That's true.
like they have already.
But what happened last time Copenhagen Wolves played SK was the Wolves were confident enough taking the 2-2 lane where they had the Annie support as well for Freeze. And they said, you know what? I believe actually this was the bottom lane they ran. Graves and Annie together. And they won, or at least did go even in the lane 2-2 against Forgiven and Enrated. So I didn't fall behind due to that. It was simply Freddy beating Youngbuck in the lane one-on-one, and it was obviously Soren also losing the mid lane that cost Copenhagen Wolves so much in that game. If they manage to step up in these solo lanes, or if Airworks can help Youngbuck not lose to Freddy, you might have a good situation for the Wolves in the 2-2 lane. And this is why you don't ban Diana, honestly, when the likes of Victor is still open. He's a lot better, honestly.
So Fox has locked that in. It'll be the first time that we've seen it in his hands this tournament. Fox expanding his champion pool over the last 2 weeks since playing at the Intel Extreme Masters, and obviously showing off that Diana to mixed success.
It wasn't bad, it wasn't great.
Exactly, you know, it didn't get them out of the group stage, but it was not all bad, and N-Rated has locked in the Morgana. So another disengaged support.
So we have seen Freddy play it as well.
Yep.
And it's a pick I really like with the likes of Victor, because Victor is so immobile, but he's so fantastic late game just with the insane amount of burst damage. If you can protect him, it becomes nearly impossible for other teams to win fights. And when you have an Annie engaging in, you know what's going to happen when the Wolves start the fight. They're going to try and flash onto the Victor and lock it down. The Blacktail is going to deny that. If it goes to the top lane, you can now run, let's say, Lucian Janna, maybe Lucian Lulu for Enrated and Forgiven, and you have a lot of protection for your back line. And you basically say to Copenhagen Wolves, come at us, we're going to let you engage. Once you engage here, you blow everything, we're going to re-engage with an insane amount of burst on the Victor and win the fight.
Well, it might be the option. 1 game played for Freddy in the top lane, and rated 0 on that bottom lane Morgana. We actually saw Blitzcrank banned against N-Rated yesterday. Let's touch on the Copenhagen Wolves. They've gone for Fiss and Karthus. Jungle or top? That's my question.
I'm going to say jungle, simply because Youngbuck is not a carry top laner. So I would not put him on a split pusher. He's a lot better in team fights. And I have seen jungle Fiss a few times. Very mixed success as well. Basically, the idea behind it is Fiss has % magic damage on his W. So he feels like somewhat tanky in that jungle, and he's more or less just a tank killer in the late game. we're going to have to see how they play around it. And if it's going to that jungle position, Karth is obviously for Soren. He played it yesterday as well.
So just really quickly, if that is a jungle Fizz, some very interesting stats on Airwax. This is the 16th game the Copenhagen Wolves have played. Airwax has played Jarvan 8 times, and every other game has been a different jungle champion. This will be the 8th jungler he has played a single time, on the assumption is Fizz jungle. Tristana for Forgiven, despite the fact Lucian was up and available, and Freddy will get his hands on the power pony. Let's hope he picks up Home Guard quicker than he did over in Katowice, because he was late to the party.
I'm sure he will. So SK Gaming here with a very strong late game composition through their 2 carries. Laning phase is going to be fine in the mid lane, it's going to be fine in the top lane, but Tristana is a champion that struggles in the early game. We heard Enrated yesterday on their analyst desk say they didn't expect to win their Tristana and Nami matchup they had. Well, they played Tristana and Nami on the side of SK Gaming because Tristana is simply so weak early on, but they managed to outplay Giants anyway. Copenhagen Wolves have a lot stronger bottom lane in their hands right here with Graves and Annie. So I don't expect SK to take the same 2-2 matchup. But the problem is you're already locked in the Hecarim. He wants to be in their solo lane. If he's in a lane swap, he's good at farming the jungle, especially with Rek'Sai. You can play it very fast and you have some decent ganks after level 2. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see SK Gaming swap, but also because Lissandra does really well against Hecarim, at least in the early stages when Hecarim has to be in melee range and you can harass him from range.
Well, let's see what Youngbuck can do. This will be the 3rd showing on Lissandra in the top lane. He's got a win and a loss under his belt. Unfortunately, a pretty average KDA. 6 kills, 13 deaths on that champion. So Fisher, you touched he's not a carry player, but he'll need to carry considering this team comp will be reliant on finding those kills effectively.
And I worry a little bit for this 2-2 matchup in the mid lane for Copenhagen Wolves. Fiss needs a bit of time before he becomes really effective. You gotta get that level 6 now where he gets the extra damage from his ulti to really duel against the likes of a Rek'Sai. So when you have Victor Rek'Sai, that's a lot stronger for SK Gaming, and that means they can control that mid lane, they can push in the wave, they can invade in with Svenskern, look for airworks, get the deep wards in, and that's the style SK always want to play. Because if you got the deep wards and you get the information on the enemy jungler, you can always play aggressive in the lanes and push them in, knowing you won't get ganked here. So I worry a little bit. Karthus is not the strongest duelist in there. We know Soren, he just wants to send a farm though. Yeah,
we'll have to find out if SK can play the regular style. They do have the tools available to them. As we're loading up into the Rift, let us know who you think has the edge. Who has the advantage between SK Gaming or Copenhagen Wolves? You know the hashtags by now. Tweet us at LOL Esports, and let's hope this game is as action-packed as the last. SK on the blue side, 12-3. They can play spoiler to the Copenhagen Wolves. They can nudge Copenhagen Wolves closer to elements. And maybe create a bit of a shake-up in that 6th place team that makes it to playoffs.
So, Airwax on jungle Fiss. The first time we see that one in Europe, but again we are on 5.5. It's open for a lot of different picks here. The ones I have seen has gone full tank, but let's talk about that after Copenhagen Wolves have invaded into the jungle of SK Gaming, trying to spot the swap, because they really want to get 2-2 lanes with this Graves Annie. So if you spot where SK is going and you manage to counter that, that's a small win for the Wolves in the early game.
Well, it looks like Copenhagen Wolves are invading. We'll see what they can do with their wards. Sven and Freddy are nearby. This ward's going to die. Wanted to put it down. 1, 2, gone. Advantage SK.
Second ward.
There's another one. No.
Oh, this one different. Sven thought he'd done a great job. He's like, guys, I got the ward. They won't be able to spot us. It is placed pretty far away from the wall, meaning SK Gaming can still hog the wall on the left side and dodge around this ward here.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Because if it's, so they will be able to sneak up here. And you can see they're pinging. They're already sitting near the wall. So they're going to sneak by it. And the Copenhagen Wolves might get some misinformation and feel like they're on the bottom side.
Let's see. Enrated stepped into the vision last time they tried this.
Didn't do it this time. Sneaky.
Sneaky.
As I would have said last year.
We've reiterated. Fan favorite. They like that one.
They got spotted.
Shh. It's a trap.
Well, it looks so good. Still, it is in time. It was 155. The Wolves have already set up in the bottom lane. No freeze either, because they didn't want to show their lane. So what Copenhagen Wolves were doing was staying at their tower, just sitting there, saying, okay, we're not going to show ourselves, because we don't want to give you any hopes here. meaning they don't get a freeze with the Graves. Hecarim is a fairly squishy top lane, and they starting with the Dawn's Blade, so they can go for that early dive, and they should. You should not allow Hecarim to pick up free farm in the lane swap. Question is just how is Airwix going to do in this Fiss early on. I'm not too sure about the early clear, how healthy he's going to be. Now the wave, we know Freddy always sits in the lane, and he always loves to pick up farm. He doesn't even care about dying. If he gets a wave for it, that's perfectly fine. So the Wolves need to find a way to deny him. And Ready got the Grom for instant level 2. There's a lot of things going on here. Forcing Soren.
Panicked.
You saw they started Grom. That's why they walked by the ward here. Gave the level 2 to him. Forgiven is now up in the lane on the top side. Youngbuck, however, can go up and farm a lot easier because he's ranged than the Hecarim. So that's a small advantage for the Wolves. Airworks is also very healthy, as you can see in this jungle, so he should be able to come down and try and bully him away.
Well, let's see what Copenhagen Wolves can do with this. Got to be a little more defensive in that middle lane. And, you know, something that I was reading some discussions on Fizz as a top laner or a jungler. The fact that he's got percentage HP on his W in the tank meta is very, very effective.
That's exactly why you play him now.
There you go. And
the thing also for Airworks and for the people who wonder about the runes, he's running 0 AP at the moment. He's running armor runes, very standard, obviously. And then from the looks of it, he has a lot of cooldown reduction with the blue buffs. He gets 5%, that's not the runes. Instead, attack speed for him seems to clear a bit faster. He's coming down to this bottom lane. We just talked about how Freddy needs to get denied all this farm. A double buffed jungler should do the trick. There's a wall to spot him. Freddy is level 2 here. Will they go for the dive?
Where is the stun? Unlimited's got it.
Ready. Oh, we got level 3 already. That's
Freddy's untouched. Let's see when they decide to go in. Stun goes out. Buckshot hits. Airwax has the ability to tank up some shots. Unlimited. Is he in trouble?
Perfect.
No, the armor keeps him alive. Played that super close. Kill goes to Airwax.
Go back a few weeks. Whenever SK Gaming lane swapped, Freddy would do this. He would just sit in the lane and farm, and
nobody hold that story.
Well, Youngbuck.
We do see Youngbuck now. He's in trouble. Exhaust goes out. He's flashed forward. He tries to root and rate it. He will be going down. Svenskeren is forced to flash. Turret hit. Not enough thanks to Summoner heal.
All right.
And SK trade 1-for-1.
So basically mirrored the whole thing. Both top laners dying. Difference is Freddy used teleport to the lane. So again, a few weeks ago, Freddy would always go to the lane. Nobody would punish him. He would get a massive farm advantage. And people didn't really know why SK always won the lane swap. That was one of the main reasons. Now teams have adapted. We saw that IEM as well. We saw Fnatic do it in Europe. You go down early. You simply either force him away from the tower or you just kill him. And you deny so much farm. This bot lane tower got poked down quite a lot as well. So they should be able to trade the 2 towers. No?
Oh, Youngbuck in a little bit of trouble. It's jumped on by Forgiven. Forgiven does get stunned up. Dark Binding does not connect with the champion. But tower fell in favor of SK, small advantage.
And Forgiven is now able to push this wave in, get 1,550 gold. He's sitting on 1,400 now. So you can get a BF sword to only the pickaxe farm freeze. That's very important for him. It does mean that he's going to push the wave down to Youngbuck, so he's going to get some extra farm. But all Forgiven cares about is himself in this case, and getting that BF sword, so he has a small item advantage in the bottom lane, meaning he should be able to defend the bottom tower, and then you suddenly have a small advantage for SK in the swap. Now, the gank into the mid lane.
Unlimited is going to get stunned up by that gravity field. Svenskeren has responded. No flash for Sven. And those lay wasting double damage to isolated targets. And Sven takes a big chunk. And Soren gets away unpunished despite not having flash.
Airwax tried to go down to the bottom lane here to see if he can push it in with Freeze and get this tower before Forgiven returns to the lane. You can see he's just pushed up the top lane. He's gonna back away now. He has the BF sword ready. If Freddy can hold off just for a minute more, I don't think he's gonna be able to, but he's gonna try. Then they can defend the tower. Otherwise, Copenhagen Wolves will be able to trade it, which is the important thing. There's a lot of things going on in this swap here. I love SK Gaming when they swap around.
Yep, SK and their lane swaps. Not really differing too much from their plan. BF sword as well as a long sword picked up. Forgiven already changed to the scrying orb. Gonna move his way towards that bottom lane. Freeze, we do see is near the turret. Let's see how much damage he's hammering away.
There for now at least.
And I don't think that tower's going down. Freeze is not committed. And also, Freeze with an early pickaxe means he's gonna be behind in effective damage.
Exactly, so now SK Gaming with a small advantage after the swap, actually a fairly large one. And Freeze is sitting in that annoying point where you only have 1,800 gold. So you can't really go back and get a BF sword, and you have to adapt your build. So you can see he's changing up instead. Gonna go towards the Brutalizer frame. So you're gonna see the Ghost Blade build suddenly just adapting, saying, I need some power right now to be able to lane properly and still punish this Tristana. And that's why he's going for the Brutalizer.
So, Dragon picked up SK with the swap, and punishing Freeze's back timing means SK not only have the first tower, but they've got the first Dragon on the board. And setting themselves up comfortably. They defended the bottom tower, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, what should have happened for the Copenhagen Wolves was Airwax should have stayed in the bottom lane after they killed Freddy and taken that tower down. So once the tower died, wow, Freeze, he wants to fight. Got the level 6 at least, but they should have killed the tower with Airwax. He backed away after they got the kill. That's why they couldn't push it, and therefore they are one tower behind now.
Unlimited eats a Dark Binding, the Soil's underneath. He's flashed forward, does stun up Forgiven, but Freeze with nothing left to offer. Summoner Heal gets used. Buckshot onto Enrated as you see the explosive charge onto Freeze, forced backwards. Summoner spells, Flash and Exhaust available between Forgiven and Enrated, and only flash up for Freeze if another bout were to start.
But that was such a good play by the Copenhagen Wolves. They saw that Freeze were level 6, only 5 of Forgiven, so he just went straight, just dashed forward, comboed Forgiven in the face. So now they can push it down and should be able to get that tower. So it's just a very smart play, making up for them falling behind beforehand and keeping it even. I don't think Enrated is he going to be able to defend
There's not a lot of minions to work with. The caster's down to about half HP.
There you go.
A couple more hits.
One more hit.
It
There
will
we
be
go.
secured.
Good play from Freeze and Unlimited, punishing Forgiven, being one level behind.
So evening up the towers. 1-1, Copenhagen Wolves hold onto a minor advantage, thanks in part to Young Buck's superior farm, 56 to the 31 of Freddy. Remember, of course, Freddy was dived a little bit earlier, and he wasn't able to get as much farm.
And this really makes up for everything now for the Wolves, because they were winning that top lane. We talked about how Freddy got killed under the tower, had already used teleport, got denied everything.
Airwax is here as
And
well.
because Forgiven and Enrated was staying with Svenska on the top side. Oh, let's see it after here. Freddy.
Chum the waters, and Freddy's gonna get munched by the narwhal of power. We do see Requiem coming out as Airwax and Young Buck continue to chase. Glacial Path into the Ice Shard. And Young Buck and Airwax, with the help of Soaring, get 2 quick kills.
Go for the Devour build here on Fiss. Then potentially go tank after for Airwax. So running all that attack speed. It's going to be all about the W. Again, remember, it was changed. It's no longer the dot that does the percent damage. It's every single time he hits when it's active. And that's why he's going for this build here. Also been able to farm fairly well. Soren, not really in any trouble here. Young Buck, though, might be in problems.
Well, let's see. Freddy continues to chase. Onslaught of Shadows is available. I think he's waiting for the path. Should follow, and does. Young Buck will go down. Red buff transfer.
No, he's gonna die.
I'm a believer. Oh,
No, what?
Freddy gave up. Freddy gave up. Copenhagen Wolves have the kill advantage and the buff on Young Buck and are not punished.
Can't believe he gave that one up.
Freddy's not the kind of guy I would have thought would not get that kill. It was a weird sentence. SK win the popularity vote, and Airwax eats a Dark Binding. We do see Young Buck. He's actually TPing from behind. Exhaust is burning, and there's not a lot of CC to follow. Ice Shard, can it connect? Red buff auto attack, slowing Enrated. We do see Airwax dashing forward with that Urchin Strike. And another kill for Copenhagen Wolves. Yesterday, Giants did the same thing to SK, but threw away their lead after not taking advantage of the team composition. I don't expect the same mistakes from the Wolves.
No, they also fell behind because Power of Evil got a few kills in the mid lane. Now this has just been a farm fest in here. In this game, Young Buck is looking pretty solid early on, rushing that Hourglass. I quite like that. I feel like Morel Nomicon on Lissandra is still great. So what I would have liked is more, you go to Cindy Boots, you go Codex, and you get that cooldown reduction, which is very important, and then you go for the Hourglass. But clearly the Copenhagen Wolves are looking to make some fights early on, seeing as he's rushing it on Lissandra here. But it is very standard when you are in a lane swap that you kind of skip Morel Nomicon because it's more of a lane item for you. Normally you would just get that cooldown reduction, however, first, before you go for the straight Hourglass.
So we'll find out whether or not Young Buck's build actually works into his favor.
Well, he might still do it. Possibly he could just have had 1600 gold when he went back to base the first time and just get that large rod. You have it sitting there. You can still go for the cooldown reduction route before you finish the Hourglass.
We'll find out what he decides to do, Fisher.
He will indeed.
A minute 30 until Dragon spawns. SK got the previous one uncontested, thanks to playing the lane swap. I didn't actually know there was a pages turning sound effect on that back animation, so it caught me by surprise. But touch the touch on these CS numbers, even mid, even 80 carry, 30 difference. Young Buck is ahead of Freddy. That is a line I did not expect to say, especially in a lane swap scenario where Airwax was not helping out Youngbuck, which actually has been the flavor of the day for the Copenhagen Wolves for a very, very long time.
But he didn't have to help him because the lane is always pushing down with SK Gaming. Yeah. They don't care about giving farm to the top lane, they only care about taking tower. That's why Youngbuck got all this farm here, and of course the Hecarim a lot weaker in that sense, seeing as he's a melee champion, and he was also killed very early by the Copenhagen Wolves. Also blown here by Forgiven.
Yeah,
onto Airwax, I think.
Buster shot used onto Airwax's Fizz, yeah. So it's not the longest of cooldowns. A little bit over a minute and a half at rank 1.
Obviously Airwax want to stack up the Devour here for himself as well. Cooldown reduction. I want to see next item again. I'm expecting him to go tank from now. He doesn't really need a whole lot more damage. His job is basically just poke on the tanks every time it's percent damage. I keep doing this poke animation because you guys can't see it, but Trevor can see it, so it's fine.
Yeah, it is quite funny. Deficio's Seastone Trident auto-attack animation had me giggling. Rod of Age is completed for Soren. Pretty standard timing. Brutalizer for Freeze. Berserker's Greaves, Avarice Blade, and BF Sword for Forgiven. So he's going to hit that Eye Edge Shiv spike faster than his opposite number. But Dragon number 2 started by SK Gaming.
Kind of sad we missed the build-up for this Dragon here. What SK always likes to do is Freddy's going to hard push the top lane, and then he walks down once the wave hits the tier 2 tower, and he walks down to the mid lane, and he just sits right there. And then he allows the rest of SK to go to Dragon with 4 guys, and in case there's a fight, Freddy's nearby, it's going to be 5 members, and you don't have to blow a teleport on it, because you already pushed the wave. And that's one of the reasons people always try to avoid losing these towers fast against SK, because that's where they get to play the style where you hard push every single lane at once, and you simply use the minions to gather information, use the minions to control where Copenhagen Wolves have to send their members. You simply play around it. Outlast is completed for Youngbuck, so decides simply just to get it, had enough gold. Let's see if he can use it. I mean, he's gonna have teleport ready soon. No cooldown reduction, which normally is so fantastic on Lissandra to control these team fights here. Wave clear even faster as well. But I'm sure it's gonna come in after.
Well, Youngbuck does have time. SK, despite putting pressure on Dragon, have not necessarily played super aggressively elsewhere on the map. And Crystalline Bracer picked up for Airwax. You expected tank to fish out. Seems to be the case for the time being. And Soren still farming up a Storm, looking at about 10 CS a minute. We saw how terrifying Karthus's can be. As plural of Karthus, Karthai. Xiaowei Xiao from NA, Froggen yesterday. Potential is there, especially because SK want to dive onto you. Victor wants to run at you, Rek'Sai wants to run at you, Hecarim wants to run at you. Hell, even Rework Tristana wants to do that. Buster Shot just to keep Forgiven alive, in fact, as bursts, Freeze's burst was higher.
Yeah, SK Gaming's team fight is going to be a lot about a TP coming in, take it after, because now Sven and 2 of his friends are coming down towards Freeze Unlimited here. They should be able to get up to one of them. Youngbuck is teleporting as well.
Oh, Unlimited just gets deleted.
Now Youngbuck is behind enemy lines here.
Skaren follows up onto Freeze. Youngbuck does have Flash, should have his Glacial Path. Flash for Flash. That's a trade you'll take any day of the week. To avoid the engage power from Youngbuck. Look at the grouping. Copenhagen Wolves again out of position. Airwax, that was a little bit brave. He's going to get knocked backwards. Playful's over, Trickster's under. Onslaught of Shadows keeps Airwax in trouble. And Copenhagen Wolves do exactly what Giants did yesterday.
I get you want to clear a tunnel, but don't do it when the other team is running towards the mid lane with 3 or 4 guys, and you know they're coming. Because they were chasing your top lane, and now more people gonna die.
Oh, that's a good stun from Unlimited though, but it's not gonna be enough. We do see Sven Skaren. Oh, Youngbuck jumps in. Glacial Tomb locks down Sven Skaren, and it's actually Soren that picks up the kill. So Tower did survive. SK were in full retreat, and the Tibbers was in fact enough. The Copenhagen Wolves gave up way more kills than they should have.
Yeah, no reason at least for Airwax to die there. We saw teleport as well from Youngbuck was used. Not sure what he was expecting, maybe trying to pick off Forgiven. In the end, he was just caught behind, but still a kill for the Copenhagen Wolves in the very end. This mid tower, however, is super low. That's going to be the last outer turret, and then we know exactly what SK Gaming is going to do. The standard 1-3-1, push everything at once, and then later on they can just group together, at least put the Victor and the Tristana to really fast push down these towers here. We know how good Tristana is late game to take towers. If you have Rek'Sai sitting and playing one of the side lanes with his global ulti, you got a good setup here for SK Gaming. Did you just say poop?
Boop. Tower dropped. Little gentle tap from the melee minion. Auto attacks don't look all that menacing against structures. But the one thing I want to see is whether or not Copenhagen Wolves can shut down that 1-3-1 to Fisher with a Fizz plus Lissandra plus Karthus ulti. You'd like to think there are tools to deal with whoever it is on SK side that's pushing it down. If it is Tristana, if it is Hecarim.
Yeah, that's very true. Late game, Svenskeren won't really be able to do a whole lot against Airwax. He gets going on this Fiss in terms of the one-on-ones. Svenskeren, however, does have that global ulti, and that's the big difference. You simply just push out the wave and then you ulti over to your team and you pick a fight where you have a numbers advantage. For now, Freddy is reading the map, realizing he's about to get killed, so he backs away. Good little play from the Copenhagen Wolves, knowing that, okay, one lane wasn't pushed in, we can take it. And what they'd done just before as well was they had pushed the mid and the bottom lane, so there's no threat of SK Gaming instantly pushing a tower there, buying enough time for Youngboy to now recall and go down to this bottom lane in time to stop SK from taking a tower. So that was just a good little play, looking at the minion waves in every lane, saying, okay, will we lose anything if we go 2 guys to the top lane? In this case, you will take some damage, but they're coming down and they might be able to fight.
Well, Freeze forced to use that collateral damage just to defend. Airwax does not connect with Chum the Waters and tower drops. SK, with the split push, you focus Freddy, you lose an objective. Copenhagen Wolves should know better than that. It's something SK done all the time.
Soren stayed in the mid lane for quite a while. He could have been bot lane a lot earlier after we saw Victor move already. So he's be there to set up a defense, but good response from SK when there are 2 guys. Oh, Airwax, he's in trouble.
Well, he is.
Freddy is ulti. He's going to follow him.
Airwax got flash and should have Playful Trickster. He playfuls, he tricked
Oh!
with the outplay. Airwax is trying to get away, and Freddy is not going to be able to gallop him down despite the fear. Airwax manages to get out. Hashtag LCS big play.
Yeah. So what SK did before, though, was knowing there was going to be 2 or 3 guys on the top side. They did get to push in that tower. Already mentioned how good Tristana is at pushing it. Still, Soren should have been there in time to hold that one for Wolves. We saw Youngboy were recalling and trying to go down to the tower. So we're just talking a few seconds and it would have been defended. Anyway, that is the SK Gaming style. Apply pressure in multiple lanes. Punish people for using too many guys to take a tower elsewhere.
So Dragon is up. SK seems to be moving towards the direction. They've got some deep wards in the jungle. Actually, they've got quite a few. Pink ward near blue buff, 2 wards that Copenhagen Wolves are standing on top of right now. And it looks like Forgiven wants to meet that Copenhagen Wolves wave head on. Shove it back. Let's see if SK want to set up a battle. Trinity Force completed for Freddy. Lucidity Boots for Youngbuck. Tankiness coming in for Airwax. Abyssal for Fox. And we'll see whether or not Svenskeren gets caught out. He's got his ultimate, rooted in place. Chum the Waters has connected. That'll slow him down for a little bit. Urchin Strike interrupted by the knockup, forced to flash. We do see Requiem coming out. Airwax wants to continue the chase. He's going to need to continue the chase. Dragon was secured by SK. If you focus one, SK will take something else.
Yeah.
And the Copenhagen Wolves lose another objective. Chasing a kill, that simply did not happen.
And despite having Lissandra here in the mid-game, this is a fight from before. Let's see the juke from Airwax.
I'm expecting a slow-mo zoom in. Let's see.
Jumping the wall. Freddy's going to follow. And then he flash out. He just jumped back out.
The fear actually caught him.
Kind of, yeah, pulled him over the wall, so he had to flash back as well. For him, had to blow that flash, but Copenhagen Wolves with Lissandra at this point, early hourglass, you got the Graves as well into a Tristana. If you keep giving up these dragons in the mid-game, it's not going to get easier for you going into late. Yes, you have the Karthus, the skill's fantastic, but against the Victor, Tristana. So by Copenhagen Wolves deciding not to fight at this point here, and give up all these dragons to SK, they're really making it hard for themselves.
Airwax really likes that bush. He was sat there looking for Svenskeren a minute ago, and he's sat here waiting for a target right now. Chum the Waters catches Freddy. Look at
his damage.
So, just for the record, Devourer has 15 stacks, deals an additional 14 damage. Airwax should go down here as Sven and Rated will reply. Kill actually goes over to Fox. Yes, they got 1-for-1, but what can Wolves do with this? It looks like Soren is pushing middle. No one is there to defend top. Who is going to recall? Gonna be there very late. Yeah, Freeze is a mile and a half away. He's recalling bottom lane.
Look at the timing here from SK Gaming. They saw Freeze pushing bottom lane very far away from any tower, so they could invest 4 or 5 guys on the top side This game has basically been all about deciding how many guys can we put in one lane to kill someone and what do we have to give up in some other lane. SK Gaming have been winning on that front nearly every time, and it is their style. It's how they like to play it. Airwax, fantastic damage. We believe he's maxing that W as well. Of course he is. We're running with the attack speed runes. He has the Devour. Freddy is still the only top lane Hecarim in the world. Does not get early boots and early home guards. I'm not sure why he refuses to use it when it is so strong to engage fight. You get so much extra damage. You get flanked from so many different...
Think of Huni yesterday.
Huni, think of Vishichachi when he played it. Think of every Hecarim in China and Korea. I don't know why he hates it so much. Clearly, okay, so for SK Gaming, they tend to have fairly poor warding.
Can I just quickly
And he also tends to be pushing the lanes, and then instead of going back and teleporting, he's pushing the lane in, and then he's moving between. So maybe that's why he's not planning on being back in base. Now he's going to try again.
Wow, that was... Fine. Freddy was trying to teleport. His teleport was interrupted. We do see Forgiven caught up. Will Baron... Baron stomps him on the head. And Forgiven gets dropped. We did see Unlimited dropped in reply. Once again, trade 1-for-1. Freddy's teleport was cancelled. And Copenhagen Wolves find some kills and pretty weird passage of play. I really wanted to just mention something quickly. Deficio, you mentioned that Freddy's mom watches the show and called him up for being greedy. Freddy's mom, can you speak to the gentleman and ask him why he doesn't build home guard boots in Hecarim? We'd love to know.
Also, a shout out to you for watching. You're awesome.
Yes, get back to us. Also, as British, last Sunday was Mother's Day. Hope you enjoyed it. Right, back in game. Copenhagen Wolves got the mid turret from SK down after punishing Freddy. Freddy's teleport not available to respond. Got those Merc trades upgraded. And Copenhagen Wolves are a little disjointed, I think.
Well, they're kind of relying on Airwax to win that one-on-one battle, which he did get a kill before. He forced Freddy's ulti as well here, so he's clearly a lot stronger at this point. Problem is he doesn't have any globals to really assist his team, so the four guys running together from the walls have to be able to create some plays as well after Airwax gets that kill or gets them pushed back to really take advantage of it. So in that case, I really like the pickup against SK Gaming because you know they're going to be split pushing and you can duel them with this tanky Devour Fiss, which is also completely new. Gotta love 9.5.
16. 16 stacks on Devour. Bonus damage of plus 41 per auto attack. We've got quite a decent attack speed, 1.42. So you actually see how many Airwax gets off. Let's follow this Deficio. That's Unlimited going down.
Yeah, I tried to set up and engage, and then Victor, he's not a polite man. He will destroy you if he gets the chance. And he got it right there. Currently sitting on the second upgrade of the Hex Core. Obviously the Q following. So for SK Gaming now, you got the problem that this Fiss refuses to back away from your Hecarim. You have no TP on Freddy, so you can't really go to your 1-3-1 setup at the moment. You instead have to group up and pre-ward a little bit before an objective. So now they're setting up for Dragon as 5 guys together. There's no lane pressure. Top lane is being pushed up by Yamago, who has teleport ready. The Copenhagen Wolves should be able to fight this one, unless they keep using Airwax purely to split push, because then he's never going to be able to join due to his lack of any kinds of globals. He's looking for another pick in the bush, hoping for a piece of God given to face check him.
Well, we'll have to see whether or not Forgiven does. Airwax does have flash available. There is some support from Fox. You definitely don't want to be hopping into that gravity field, especially if you use your entire combo to chase somebody down. But Fizz is hunting a Hecarim. There's a lot of vision in the river though. That crab.
Wolves gotta go straight Dragon now. SK Gaming just plays so many wards and they're going to give it up completely by showing Freddy in that side lane. This is where you move in. You know your 5 guys already. You got to get that ping ward down at least here. Get some control around it like they're doing now. You can now set up a fight properly because you're going to see the Hecarim coming. You can position around it. And if he dives onto your Karthus, that's fine for you. Just make sure AD carry doesn't die as well.
So let's see if Freeze can stay alive from the initiation. SK Gaming showing their hand. They want this fight, Deficio. Darkbinder connects on Soren. Everybody going in. Yes, Frensko is caught. Tibbers is down. There's the onslaught of shadows. Karthus has managed to get one, and Airwax is down in the back line. Freeze still untouched at around 100% HP. Requiem channeled is going to get himself a double kill. Keep an eye on Freeze's hit points as Fox and Forgiven are forfeiting the fight, and they are in retreat. It is a 3-for-4. As Copenhagen Wolves are unable to get the carries of SK, they end up coming away Worse for wear.
Keep in mind the Wolves here, they were fighting while Dragon was still hitting them, and Airworks was stuck at least in the Dragon Pit from the start of it here, so couldn't really get onto the right targets. You can see the two carries from SK were the ones staying alive. The Victor and the Tristana. Close fight though, and the first time we see the Wolves really say, you're not going to get more dragons, we're not going to get you that easy 5 dragons, we're going to stop this one. Even for now, well, nobody picked it up at least.
Yeah.
Respawning, still teleport for Youngbuck, no teleport for Freddy. So you can come down and rejoin this fight.
Well, still fairly even as far as the kills is concerned. Advantages for SK in the gold, as well as the towers, and obviously the dragons. The problem for Copenhagen Wolves, it kind of feels like they're not on the same playbook, if that makes sense. You know, I think Airwax is doing a good job of soloing out Freddy and trying to keep him out of the game. But as a team, they're not responding to the threats that SK is putting down quickly enough.
That's very true. They've had some good calls, in my opinion, with the way they've been saying, okay, we can now invest 2 guys to top and take that tower. We should be able to defend bot lane in time, because the wave had been pushed up before, which is what you have to do. If a team is doing 1-3-1, always make sure when you want if you want to go and kill someone in the side lane, you always need like 1 or 2 guys, 2 guys in this case, push out the mid and bot lane first. So you don't have to risk them just pushing that one up, 4 guys and taking your tower. That's how you can stop the 1-3-1 setup if you have enough hard engage, or if you have a Fiss in this case, who can win the one-on-one. Problem is, they've just been a bit slow reacting to defending.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to give up these towers. They've given up dragons. Even though they had a very good mid-game setup with Lissandra and Graves, they still forfeit all these dragons here just to let Airwax go and try and kill Freddy every time.
So it feels like Copenhagen Wolves had all of the aggressive moves down. Because everything they've done that's been relatively positive has been jumping onto SK and, you know, positioning Airwax around the map. But the defensive play needs some work. Just as an update, there is a visual bug that one of the players from Copenhagen Wolves has reported regarding Victor's HP. So the QA guys and the QC guys are looking into it at the moment. I'll give you an update as soon as I hear a little bit more. And talking about that Victor, Fox, 504, has been in the right place, has not really felt under threat. However, Copenhagen Wolves have not really set their sights on him. They've seemed to be more focused on Forgiven in the lane swap and Freddy in the later up.
But this was what we talked about at the start of the game, how Karthus is not really going to beat you in a duel straight up. He might outfarm you, but he's not really going to kill you in that duel one-on-one. And then again, we have Fiss Rek'Sai. Fiss needs a bit more time. He wants to get that Devour. He wants to start farming it up. So the 2-2 were in favor of SK from the start. So there was no real ganks in the mid lane, meaning you had a safe lane on Victor, you got all your farm, and now you got your second Hex core upgraded, so you got the movement speed, you got a cleanse from obviously the summoner spell. So there's a lot of ways to defend yourself now.
Yeah.
Keeping him safe. And the only dive in, really, from Copenhagen Wolves is going to be Youngbuck. And he's not really aiming to go for any flanks either. He's staying with the team at all times, because it's Airwax being the split pusher. So he's staying with the team. So there's not really been anyone to dive on and kill any of the carries, honestly, from SK. And that's also why they're the ones staying alive in this game here. Oh, well, in this last fight.
Yeah, 27 minutes on the clock. Forgiven's got that Shiv completed, Eye Edge, Vamp Scepter build up, and a little bit down on CS, but nothing to be worried about. As a team, they're going to be happy to scale. The one thing that you can never count out is a late game Karthus damage. So SK have got to be very careful how long they leave their final pushes to go, because at some point, Sauron's going to be very scary. Just another quick update. Copenhagen Wolves have all left the game, and they are restarting their clients. So we should be able to get them back into the game as quickly as possible and hope for the best.
Forgiven is trying to tell his team here. But
we will have to... We'll have to ask the guys on PTL to check.
That's true.
Mike, check. You have a mission.
Very true. So...
Very animated.
Even though there's the Karthus you mentioned on the late game, I mean, you still got Victor and Tristana on your side.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not like you have a terrible late game in that case for SK. I do still feel like, I mean, in straight up 5-on-5, there's enough dive on from Copenhagen Wolves to get to that backline. You know Karthus is going to try and run through as well. You got the wall. If you get to Victor with the wall and slow him down, he's super immobile. He's not going to go anywhere. That's where you can get onto him and shut him down. And also, Airwax in the late game, because he has Devour, he keeps stacking it up here. He has some pretty serious damage, and he's building full tank after. So basically, he has the ability to get in their late game and also deal a lot of damage.
Well, talking on the Devourer, 20 stacks, bonus 45 damage. We might be able to see that in action. We actually have a replay of one of the last fights. If we can pull it up onto your screen. And Deficio, let's figure out where this is. This is the dragon fight, in fact.
Yeah, so first of all team misses from Eric's. That's a big deal for Fiss now after the changes, because it gives him this extra damage on whatever target it is. And also Sven was in a good spot. He took all the damage at first. Freddy diving the back line, and you can see how Victor and Tristan at this point is completely untouched. The dive in from Youngbuck didn't reach him, the wall didn't reach him from the Karthus, and that's where they can win the fight. Also, the Dragon obviously hitting the Copenhagen walls the entire time. And it's so tricky. When you're the team starting that Dragon, you have to focus on the Dragon, but you also got to focus on the team at the same time. And it's so hard like doing both things, because you're always looking at the Dragon. It's low enough for me to smite as a jungler, so you might miss a bit of information on whatever happens. And that's also why Airwax was sitting in the Dragon pit, missed the ulti, nearly impossible for him to get it past the 2 tanks, and he couldn't really do anything in this fight.
So unfortunate for Copenhagen Wolves. One step behind their opponents. The Dragon did not go down. I think that's important to note.
Sure.
Freeze came away relatively unscathed at the end of the fight. Both Fox and Forgiven managed to survive. And we did see Fox hanging around the Dragon pit. We'll see whether or not they decide to engage if Forgiven comes back for it. But as it stands, 3 dragons to SK Gaming. We've seen them win multiple times going for the 5-dragon scenario, and they've had complete control of the pit. They may be focusing on that as their, 5-step process to winning the game.
But this is the same Copenhagen Wolves did yesterday. They tried to trade towers for dragons. In that game, they did get a few towers against the Unicorns of Love, but they fell so far behind it at 30 minutes, Unicorns got 5 dragons, and that was basically game over. The Wolves as a team, if you look at the last few weeks, have been very good in the early game, but then had some fairly weak team fights, honestly. That's why they've lost or starting to lose quite a few games, especially against the better teams. I'm not sure if that's the strategy, saying we're going to avoid fighting before we get to full late game, where we have these 2 carries in Soren and Freeze, and we trust in them to do well. And that's why we're kind of skipping the mid game and not risking any dragon fights. But clearly, it puts you in this ticking time bomb situation where you suddenly are forced to team fight. You're forced to start that dragon, try and smite it away. Otherwise, you're going to get to that 5th dragon point, and then suddenly your whole tactic just fell apart.
Well, as a team, Copenhagen Wolves had, in their winning streak, had done very well in the early stages of the game. And after they got up their advantage, they seemed to play the advantage very well. What we're seeing more and more as the split has gone on, Copenhagen Wolves have had to play from behind or from an even footing. And you can see their aggressive plays are good. Taking towers, camping a strong player, keeping somebody down and out of the game, at arm's reach. But what they're not doing is responding well. They've simply not had enough games, I feel, over the last couple of weeks where they've been in these situations, especially with this type of team comp, that they need to make those decisions. So, I think for a team like Copenhagen Wolves, it's just a matter of figuring out how to respond in the right scenarios. And it's not showing through yet. You still feel like SK is in control of the game. Despite a lot of the metrics being very close, it's just leaning in favor of the blue team.
Because they have still managed to get these towers down by doing the 1-3-1 setup. And when you play against again, it's tough, because you got to make sure every lane is under control before you make any plays. If you ever go top lane with 2 or 3 guys and your mid lane is pushing, you're going to give up 1 or 2 towers. That's guaranteed. So you have to make sure every lane is in check, pushed out first. And it also makes it very easy for the team doing the 1-3-1 to kind of predict what's going to happen. Oh, they just hard push 2 lanes and our top lane is still pushing. I want to know where they're going, so obviously he's going to back away, and suddenly...
Again, you make it sound so easy.
You won't get the kill. It's not easy. It's easy for me sitting here and looking at the game. Obviously, we can see everything. The problem is still for SK, despite them being in the lead, they don't really have an answer for this Fiss. Freddy keeps getting caught out a little bit, but whenever he has teleport ready, all he has to do is just sit in the one-on-one with the Fiss, back away, and then teleport up to his team, and then you engage.
But you do see how impactful that ultimate is. If AOX doesn't connect with anything like the replay we just showed, then all of a sudden, yes, he's well fed, he's well farmed, he's in a good position, but if he doesn't connect with Chum the Waters, if he doesn't get a priority target, get rid of Freddy, get rid of Fox, or get rid of Forgiven, then all of a sudden, that threat is significantly lower.
And also, a Tristana is going to look at the Fiss, who tries to obviously jump in and try and shoot him back.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then suddenly you have to use your Trickster to get back in, and then you have no defensive abilities left anymore. Now, he is building full tanks, so that's okay. But Tristana, especially late game, will be able to keep Fiss away. So that's where it now relies on Youngbuck instead, getting to that back line, locking down Forgiven, who's now currently building a QSS. So it's going to be tough really getting to that back line for the Copenhagen Wolves, looking towards the late game, where we know a Tristana and a Victor can win your games.
Yeah, so just to give you guys another quick update, the guys on stage are still investigating that visual bug. The moment I hear a little bit more in-depth info, I will let you know. But while they're working on it, let's just step out of the game for a second. I think we've broken down the mechanics a fair amount. Let's talk about what this means for the respective teams. Copenhagen Wolves are currently 7 wins and 8 losses in the table. In theory, they are losing this game. So if they do lose to SK, they will find themselves at 7 wins, 9 losses. For contrast, Elements are 6 wins, 9 losses.
Yep.
Elements play Gambit later today. So if Copenhagen Wolves do not turn around this game, they are then at risk of being tied with Elements. I'm going to have to check the head-to-head record. It is tied 1-1.
Yeah.
So with the head-to-head tied and a potential tie for 6th place, Elements and the Wolves could be swapping for playoffs.
It's a scary thing, especially because they have been this stable middle team, and now suddenly you might not even find yourself in the playoffs, which is honestly a bit strange because earlier in this split, they looked really good.
Yeah.
They won a winning streak, 5 or 6 games, and we were like, oh, suddenly the Copenhagen also showing up. They found this playstyle with 2 carries, Soren and Fiss, and then 3 supports, making sure they could do well. But simply the team fights haven't been good enough for them if you look at the last few weeks, and that's why they've been shut down.
Well, we'll see if they can figure out that magic recipe. Guys, unfortunately, while the team is looking into the problems, we're going to throw it over to Shox at the analyst desk to chat a little bit more.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. And I'm joined here by Cyanide. And coincidentally, you told me that your most played champion this season, in the jungle at least, is Fiss. So you must have all the intel into this pick. And how has it been working out so far for Arax in this game?
I think it's pretty smart for him to try to split push so much, because the Victor is just a huge problem for him right now. Since he has no MR, the Victor just basically blows him up 2 spells. So I think that's a course they have to keep taking before he gets some MR items, because he can't really do all that much, especially with the Victor cleanse. It's so hard to catch him.
But then the question is, he keeps running into Freddy, who he can't even kill almost anymore. And then Victor can just go up and blow up the rest of the team. So it doesn't even seem like the right solution.
Yeah, I actually think Fiss was a mispick here, because you can't, obviously Hecarim can always run away and you can't kill him. And in teamfights, there's not that much you can do. So it's going to be a hard game for them to figure out. Like, the best scenario I can see is that Victor gets taken down very early and then they can go in, or then they just win the team fight regardless of the Fiss's presence, and maybe he can get to hit him.
Yeah, you do mention the late game with the Tristana in there for SK Gaming and the Karthus on the other side. Who would you give it to if it continues to be even?
Yeah, I think SK is going to win if it just continues like this. But on the other hand, there is the Karthus, and Karthus' late game damage potential is just insane.
Yeah, we talked about the Fizz in this game, but as said, this is your most played champion. So what is kind of the appeal then to you in different comps? Because I can assume you sometimes in solo queue have to run it in comps that don't work as well.
Yeah, in solo queue it's way easier because the enemy team obviously has no synergy, so you can just split push and they are not even going to go for the turrets and drakes like SK. This game, every time Wolves were trying to pick off the kills, the SK just took the objectives, and now Wolves is forced to try to fight for them.
Yeah, in solo queue, 1 versus 5 anyway.
Yeah,
Cyanide
exactly.
Carrying his entire team. What do you make of the jungle picks for SK yesterday? We saw Spencer and going back to Lee Sin. Now we see a Fizz here for Arax, but a Rek'Sai on the side of SK Gaming and Svenskeren. How do you think his style meshes with the upcoming tank junglers?
Yeah, Svenskeren hasn't played any tanks so far. He's just sticking to the stuff he knows. Maybe it's because he didn't really have time to practice, or he just feels like the tank junglers are not in the meta, but it's just like a passing flavor of the week. So we will see if maybe next week he'll pick up something.
All right, well, he is going for Rek'Sai in this one. What do you make of this matchup? Finally, if Victor keeps doing well, which he is, we were actually criticizing Fox a little bit coming in. He's 5-0-4 already, and we know how much that hurts.
Yeah, Victor is just a complete beast right now. It's so hard to stop him because that cleanse pick was actually really super smart. But maybe later on they can just run them down. But if they had a Righteous Glory or something, maybe it would be easier, and he should maybe go for it and then just try to run in and overrun them.
All right, and what's the win possibility here for the Copenhagen Wolves? It is an uphill battle.
Yeah, they just have to try to find good fights, pick off someone, and get to the backline somehow, especially that game.
Yeah, versus a Hecarim, it's going to be quite difficult, but we will see for them. Earlier in the show, we asked you to tweet your questions for our guest analyst with the hashtag AskCyanide. So before we get into the game, let's hear what your curious minds out there want to know. Our first one is from @wins122 as asks, who do you think is the most impactful jungler right now in the European LCS and why? So person, not champion.
I think it's probably Reignover, mostly because he impresses me like time and time again. Like playing against Fnatic is like playing against 3 solo laners because he's just so strong late game every game, and he's ahead of levels, and he still manages to do pretty good impact in the early. So I'd have to go with him. And another one that stands out is Lulex, not because he's like doing extremely well with ganks and stuff, but his vision control is extraordinary.
Is that something you expected from him coming in? Because in the beginning of the season, we were always just saying, well, Lulex, he just loves to go super aggressive early, and that's what he loves to do in solo queue as well. Do you think that he's grown through his time in LCS?
Yeah, I think he's adapted really well to the competitive game.
Yeah, and Reignover just coming in here and doing fantastic straight off the bat. How do you feel like he's done from going to what we called maybe a weakness, the fact that he would play Nidalee and he played Rek'Sai and he played Rengar, and then he comes here and he says, well, I love playing tank junglers, just scaring everybody. How do you think that transition's been?
It's a pretty good transition. He played really well the last games, and like I said, it fits him perfectly because tanks are those impactful late game beasts, and he just manages to get strong every game. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, indeed. An absolute beast is that Reignover. The next tweet is from @HiddenHypeX. If you were still playing in the LCS, which champion would you be most excited to play in patch 5.5?
Well, some people might call me stupid, but I'd definitely play Sion. Like, I'm not sure if he would be good, but I'd feed if it didn't work, and if it worked, then I would be very pleased with myself. But like the synergy with the new jungle item and your W is just insane, and Sion's super fun to play.
Yeah, Kiki's actually played it before as well, so he definitely loves that champion. Do you miss it playing in the LCS at all?
I miss it sometimes. I miss winning, but I don't miss losing, so it's kind of a two-edged sword.
Yeah, and there was a lot of both actually last season. The next one is from @AirPruckPrain. He wants to know, why do you think Europe has struggled so much recently on the international stage?
It just when the overall level of the teams is lower, it's very hard to improve from that, because how you learn is playing against your bears. And let's say in Korea there's so many good teams, and they are like just over the top in the overall level, and that's just why Europe has been struggling. But for example, I think IM was a pretty bad example. Like SK and Gambit both are looking very, very poor at the moment. Like if we had teams like H2K or Fnatic going in there, maybe the results would have been different, but it's purely speculation.
Yeah, on Fnatic, I kind of agree with you. On H2K, though, you said that like one of the only reasons that they're so strong is because they are ahead of the curve. How do you think that will evolve? And is it just the level overall that's lower, yet they're ahead of the curve?
No, I think they just play the vision game way better than everyone else, and that would be a win condition against better teams.
All right, we talk about Europe on the international stage. Of course, the most recent that we have is IEM. And you guys, of course, Fnatic in the Worlds last season around. I mean, people are very quick to say things were bad or it was a bad performance. But in the end, it wasn't that bad for you guys, even though you have the flashback here now with OMG. I didn't want to remind you, but...
No, don't get me wrong. Like, our performance was completely awful. Like, I still feel bad about it. But it was just, like I said, the overall level of Europe was a bit lower. And, well... we had the group of death, we had some close games, it could have gone either way. It's not like I think necessarily NA was better than Europe, it was just China and Korea being ahead.
China and Korea being ahead. With that being said, the way it is here now in Europe, do you think that Europe as a region will be, if it stays the same, obviously, it's not like there's going to be the influx of a full Korean team or a full Chinese team all of a sudden. It's going to be these guys that they have to compete with, so how much can they improve come Worlds?
No, it's impossible to say. Like I think European LCS is looking pretty good, and I was actually expecting good things of SK going into IM, but unfortunately they fell into a slump. Like for example, at the start of the split, Svenskeren, and everyone was playing really well. Now I feel like Svenskeren is not really playing that level. I guess yesterday he had a good game, except for the mid lane shenanigans, but. I just feel like that if they went at this, if the tournament was nearer to the start of the split, they would have done way better.
All right. What about the top three as it stands? SK, Fnatic, and H2K. You do have a fair amount of critique maybe for SK Gaming. How do you feel maybe the top two can change and maybe your vision on the playoffs?
I think Fnatic is very reckless in their playstyle, and it's their strength and weakness as well. Like, of course, if you're just gonna keep going for this aggressive play, sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. Like the game before, we saw at like level 2, there were 4 people trying to flash for the kill, and it was just like, well, whatever, it didn't work. And the Nexus charging into the Nexus and just trying to kill it. Of course, it would have been brilliant if it worked, but it didn't. So that kind of sucked for them. But H2K, on the other hand, I feel like they are the more solid team, like more consistent, I would say, and they just play it safe and smart.
Yeah, if you look a bit under that now, the Copenhagen Wolves in this game, of course, there is a chance still that they win it. Of course, it is not at all decided. But in general, if you compare them to the Copenhagen Wolves you've played so many times, there is a clear improvement in our eyes. What is it if you contrast to playing them last season?
The improvement of Wolves?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the players are doing better. Like Soren is an improvement for sure, and just their overall... Like this game, their game plan was really bad. They were just going for the kills and getting destroyed in objective strikes, turrets. But yeah, I just think overall the level has gone up. It's harder to explain more in depth than that.
Yeah. Well, by the way, guys, thank you guys for sending in those tweets, and be sure to stay in touch throughout the day by chiming in at LL Esports with the hashtag LCS. Send us some tweets and ask Cyanide a bunch of stuff. By the way, we are still trying to resolve the technical issue, but we should get back into game fairly shortly. We have a couple of other things we can talk about. For instance, Elements and just the whole season. You guys lost the first European title to it in the summer split, of course, last season at the end of that, which seemed like it would be the start of the rise, especially with Reckless coming in there. What is your overall view on the way that team has evolved?
I have no idea what happened to them. Like, they were looking really strong going into Worlds, but already in Worlds their performance was not the best. It was okay. Like, I'm obviously not the one to talk.
Better or worse than Fnatic's?
I think our group was harder, but they also was like kind of an unlucky game against Kaboom that they lost, so otherwise they would have obviously went through.
Yeah. What about their performance here in the season, though? In the beginning, had you expected that it would turn out this way with Reckless, knowing what you know from playing with him in the beginning of the season, that is?
No, for me, Reckless is the most motivated player I know. I was sure they were going to do very good here, and it's just hard to pinpoint the problem. Maybe the meta is not really suiting them. Some people are struggling with motivation. I can't speculate more.
Yeah, well, you obviously stepped down and took a break from the professional scene. We don't know for how long and if you're going to come back, but is that something that might affect players like Wicked, like Froggen? Because, you know, even though this is your hobby and your job, it does turn in a little bit more to a job.
Yeah, it might affect that. Like, I guess the fundamental problem with Elements is that, like, their lack of shot calling and just doing random stuff. But who was the shot caller in the team? Was it like Tabs before, maybe doing all the shots, and now that he's gone, they are like completely lost. Now they've improved a bit on that. Maybe it's because of Krepo, but they need to fix these problems like decision making and going for the right stuff.
Yeah, Tabs is a sub no, so he could be standing backstage and calling the shots maybe over it. Well, no, that won't work out with the noise-canceling headsets anyway. What do you make of that point that they added Dexter and Tabs as subs? Well, especially Tabs, it's kind of odd to me after they went through with that AD carry change, and also from Tabs' side, actually.
Yeah, that must be pretty awkward. It just... they are not getting the results they expected, and they know something needs to change, so they just added in subs, hoping it would motivate the players. I would be really surprised to see Tabs coming in and replacing Reckless. I don't think that would ever happen. So that's why I find it a bit weird that they took Tabs as a sub. But the Dexter point is, I don't know, just to scare Shook or something into doing better.
Yeah, what do you think of Dexter in general? Because you say there's no way that they would ever replace Reckless for Tabs. I want to get back to that in a second. Does the same go for you for Dexter and Shook if you compare them in levels?
Well, Shook hasn't been playing that great this season, but like I said, I don't think it's the problem in the team. It's just like they seem to be lost in a lot of games in what to do. So, but I do think last season he was doing better than he's doing right now.
All right. It is quite interesting to me that you say that they would never put in Tabs for Reckless when Elements this season has really been all about the subs, and then the subs going out and then Wicked going out and coming back. Do you think maybe this is something that European teams also have to catch on to, the fact that you can use those subs more as putting pressure on your other team members and getting the best out, and maybe even just planning different plans around different players like we see in other regions?
I think the right approach would be just to work on the coaching and like looking at the replays and seeing what went wrong. So I don't think getting subs necessarily is the right solution, but it might help motivate some players.
Yeah. Well, we will see how that turns out for Elements. They are playing a little bit later today as well. And if Elements were to lose their next matchup, then the Unicorns of Love would lock in their playoff spot. And as by magic, a unicorn appears, and it is Kikis. Welcome, Kikis. And well, congratulations on that victory for you here earlier in the day. I'd love to get your thoughts on it in general, because it was incredibly close, and you also played a pivotal role in it.
Well, yeah, the game was crazy. It was back and forth. Like at the start of the game, we had the first blood. We thought we were like ahead, and then we randomly died a few times, and we took the Drake. They took the Drake. Like the game was all the time back and forth. We didn't know if we're gonna win, we're gonna lose, and overall, like it was really crazy to play and really exciting.
Yeah, we actually thought that with the new patch coming in, the Unicorns of Love would definitely have something crazy. It was kind of crazy, but the Nunu pick is something we have seen before. Tell me how you have to prepare differently and kind of play differently when you're on a champ like that.
Well, with Nunu, you have different playstyle than with another junglers I played before. You usually try to just buff your AD carry or someone that can like attack, and you have to zone with your ultimate, just snowball the enemy AD carry, probably just get him with this red smite and try to do a lot of damage. So that's mostly it as Nunu. You don't have strong CC or a lot of damage, so you just need to like run around, be annoying, and try enemy team to focus you.
Be annoying. That's definitely what I experience when I play versus a Nunu. That is quite annoying. You did buy Skirmisher Sabler, actually, and yesterday we had kind of a discussion if it would have been better to go for another item, but it is actually the best choice for you in the games that you've played.
Yeah, I think the Skirmishers is the best smite to buy. I don't think you really need the purple smite for the early game, because the early game is already really good, and you don't really need like the mana or the AoE. And I don't think you need the blue smite, because you already have a lot of slows. And I think he excels at having the red smite. Just as I said, just going to the mid carry, trying to make some more true damage, and you're more tanky as well with the 20% damage reduction. So I think it's the best choice, at least for my playstyle.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we saw it work really well, the Nunu, yesterday when Power of Evil was crashing the mid lane, and you were just going into the enemy jungle and warding everything and controlling the objectives really well. So with a dominant mid laner like that, it's a pretty good pick. Worked out well.
Yeah, I think it works really great if your lanes can win on their own, if there's no pressure from enemy jungle, if you can just control vision, control the pace of the game.
You mentioned Power of Evil, then he always tends to do good in games, but you guys do rely on him a lot in the wins, and he really has to get ahead, or you guys are kind of struggling. As something we've seen from our side. Is that something you've internally tried to fix as well, or?
Well, you can say we are a mid-centric team, but I don't think it's our big weakness. Maybe it's like a bit of a weakness, and we can try to fix it. But I think it works really well, and even if Tristan doesn't do that well, I think we can still win by someone else scoring.
So you played actually Sion before the jungle change. Do you think it's even better now with the new item, or it's not worth playing?
Well, I think it's good, but I actually prefer the last item, because I really like going Tenacity, the cooldown reduction from the item 10%, and then you can go Ninja Tabai, so you are more tanky overall. And now if you build Cinderhawk and they have out of CC, you can force to go for Mercury's. So you are less tanky in the late game, but you have more damage and more HP. So I think it's still really good, and he actually got some buffs, like more damage on Q, and I think it's still pretty strong.
Yeah, and you say you love to play it as well. What about the picks we're seeing in this one, the Fiss jungle, Kikis? I know you guys were the first ones to pull out the Fiss in the top lane here in Europe, so...
I actually played Fiss jungle in the season 4 versus Gambit in relegations, and now I think it's strong if you can survive the early game, because I would say he's more of a farming jungler. He doesn't have too much of an early game pressure, but if you can get to like 1-2 items like Devourer, maybe like Borg or even Tanky, you can 1v1 anyone with Red Smite, and if so someone else on your team can zone enemy team, and you can get like 1v1 or 2v2 skirmish like between the fight and try to burst someone fast. I think it's really strong, so it really depends on someone's playstyle and overall team play.
All right. Well, by the way, guys, a little update for you guys. We are still working on the technical issue, and there is a chance that we might be remaking the game, but we will keep you guys updated as we go along, and all our professionals are on that, of course. Talking about 5.5 some more, which must be fantastic for you because you're a very innovative jungler as is. Talk me through some of your other new favorites. You don't have to show a hand that you don't want to, of course.
I have some pocket picks, even before the changes, that are still strong in 5.5. And I wouldn't say I really like playing tanks. I would say I like more like carry style junglers, but I will just play whatever is the best for the team and whatever is the best in the meta. And if tanks are like the best to play, I will just play them as I played Nunu 2 games, even though he doesn't need high mechanical skills to play him. It's still like a lot of is in your brain, even though I don't think I played those 2 games. I played pretty bad early game, I think, and there's a lot I can improve. So yeah, I will just play whatever my team needs me to play.
Yeah, well, there's not actually much you can do with Nunu early game in your defense. So you actually think that the meta is shifting in the direction that everyone is going to start playing a lot of tanks now instead of the classic stuff like Rek'Sai, etc.
Well, yeah, like for example, Nidalee was open in some games and people just didn't pick her up because she's not the best against a lot of tanks because they can just stay in front of the team, tank the spears. So I think the meta is shifting more into the tank meta, but there's still like the Juggernaut team comps that are really strong against double tank. So maybe just ban out Komao and then go double tank and you're good to go.
Yeah. For you, I noticed that you said I wasn't that good in that early game. I need to improve a lot, that you play whatever is needed for the team. You've been on a lot of teams, of course, and you've had so much experience. Tell me what your experience has been like with the Unicorns of Love and why it seems to be the right fit.
Well, in Unicorns of Love, I have kind of mostly freedom to play whatever I want, mostly. Like, one person wants to play a pick and then we build team comp around that and try to excel our strengths and be the best at this team comp. So if I want to play Nidalee, we get some like other CC lanes. If someone wants to play like hyper carry, I just go Nunu and buff him up. So I think there's like a lot of trust and versatility in our playstyle. And like some time ago, people say that we're like one-dimensional, and we really try to change it. Like try to play a lot of stuff. We like 1 week went to all with like poke setup. At the start, we played like only engage, full solo queue, go in, forward, another way. Now we like play like more zone kites and like try to control the map, kind of thing. So I think we are like really good at a lot of team comps, and we're gonna try to get even more. So people won't expect what we're gonna play and can't really like prepare the best, prepare best versus us.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you'll need to do in light of the playoffs, a spot that you might lock in here today. Even who's the main force behind all that? We have Sheepy on the desk here a couple of times, of course, a Book of Wisdom, but we always see you with the notepad as well in the beginning. And I think I heard in the beginning of the season that you were also kind of the driving force in leading the picks and bans and maybe the team comps.
Mostly, I try to prepare a lot for the picks and bans. I see what enemy can pick, their pick and bans from previous matches. And I just think, like since a long time, I'm pretty good at the champion select, so I think I excel at that. And some games you can win purely on champion select if you play your team comp properly, and I think that's a really important part of the game to have a strong mindset on this.
Yeah, definitely. And also in light of the playoffs, can you shine a little bit more light on how it is to work with Sheepy? Because it seems like, well, actually, I know that he does so much more for the team as well. He's in charge of a lot of the social media stuff and the sponsor stuff, and he is the coach. Is there anything else that comes into play with you guys, other people? And is it sometimes not too much? Because sometimes the fact that you need to perform gets eclipsed by the fact that you guys are now the fan favorites, and there's a lot of extra stuff that comes around that.
Yeah, Ship is doing a lot, and he's putting a lot of work into helping us in whatever we need. And whenever we need something, we just go up to him and ask him, and he will try his best to do whatever we need. And we don't really have another stuff, though I think it would be nice, but maybe for the next split. But we are just trying our best with what resources we have, and Shippy helps us a lot, even in the scrims. Like, he's watching the games, he's trying to point out mistakes, and what we need to improve on, what we do good, so we know to keep doing it, and a lot of other stuff that are involved with practice and preparing for picks.
Yeah, how have you found adjusting to the LCS style? And then especially, you guys had a couple of inconsistent weeks and that can weigh on a team, but it seems like you've weathered the storm. So what have you set yourself up for now, knowing that you might get that playoff spot?
Well, yeah, we'll just keep doing our best, try our best, and I think we are a team that is better at best of 3 or best of 5 formats. Yeah. So I think we came out even stronger on playoffs and be really prepared, have like some pocket picks and a lot of strategies. So I think if we get to playoffs, which I think is really possible, we will do good.
Yeah, it's a real possibility, although before the week we did say it would be very, very hard for you seeing the schedule. How much does the fact that you beat Fnatic and in such manner give you that extra boost? And how much do you expect beating them before? Because even though you beat them, they are still such a hard team to keep under control.
We were kind of confident going into the match. It was way closer than we expected, though, with the Nexus being really low. But yeah, we were confident we're going to win, I think. Even though maybe it didn't show this game, we know how to play against Fnatic. We won both games versus them. And even though they're a strong team, I think like you play better versus some teams, worse versus some teams because of the playstyle of the individual players. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like just the fact that you guys have kind of similar playstyles, it meshes incredibly well, and it was one of the best games we've seen all season. I mean, if I speak for myself, that is. If we look at the playoff picture, Cyanide a little bit bigger, who do you think will be the contenders for getting high in this playoff spot? I know he's right here, but you can say your opinion on the Unicorns of Love, the likes of Gambit, if they will come back, maybe beat Copenhagen Wolves, because those are the guys that are going up and trying to get that spot.
Like the contender for the winning of playoffs. I think H2K and Fnatic are my definite favorites, but for example, Unicorns of Love have impressed me a lot as well, like mostly with the innovative picks, like Yorick Cassiopeia was like so strong. I was really impressed by that. So it could be anyone, but I think those 3 teams are the most standing out ones.
Yeah, and then for getting into the playoffs, Elements, can we count them out? And Gambit, which I'm quite surprised by, that they have maybe fumbled a little bit.
Yeah, Elements, they did a bit better yesterday, but they still have some issues to fix. We will see how they will play. And SK, they're struggling with some problems as well, unfortunately for them. But if they manage to get their stuff back together and start playing like they were playing at the start of the split, there are serious contenders as well.
All right, Kikis, what's your view on the teams that will also possibly join you if you do make it in those playoffs? Will Elements still make it, you think?
I'm not sure. It's up to them. They're a strong team. They have some problems, but they're showing up and playing better and better. And I think they are like... Well, they are on the level of top 6. It just doesn't matter if they can win the rest of the games, because there's only like next week left, and they might not have enough time to try to win those games.
Yeah, it's a close window for them. We will see. Thank you guys so much for joining us and talking a little bit during the technical delay. Thank you guys so much. For now, though, with the players back on stage, we're going to hand it back over to the caster desk.
Thank you very much, guys, for an entertaining discussion. And we do have an update for everybody at home and in the audience here. First of all, thank you for your patience. The issue that we were experiencing on stage was a visual bug that made it impossible for the Copenhagen Wolves to determine Victor's health through the entirety of that last team fight. So our officiating team has confirmed that the bug did put the Wolves at a significant disadvantage. With that in mind, the game will have to undergo a complete remake with new picks, new bans, and we'll hopefully be jumping into that very, very shortly. Just in terms of flow, when a bug is noticed, the players have the option to pause the game, bring it to the administrator's attention, and from there on out, follow the rulebook to make a decision. So, complete remake coming in very, very shortly. We'll see what will change and if it affects the game in any way.
It's not like we look at the 2 comms here and there was anything specific you had to ban away. I mean, nothing really stood out completely. Airworks looked good on Fiss, but SK found a way to play around it. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see the same kind of bans and somewhat the same comps.
Yeah, and what I would also say, I actually think the remake in terms of champion picks probably hurts Copenhagen Wolves a little more, because we're seeing that jungle Fizz for the first time in the LCS, the Karthus middle for Soren, Lissandra top. These are not champions my brain would automatically associate with the team. So SK actually have a little more information, as do the Wolves have more information about what SK were running.
Sure, but again, SK is running the same style as always, so no real surprise there. It does give them some information on the Fiss, of course. What's going to happen, how strong is it, what does he build in that case. But yeah, full remake. these teams have played against each other beforehand. So it's not like it's a complete surprise. We're like, oh, we now know what the Copenhagen was going to do. No, they know everything. We saw SK Gaming had no real problems playing around it before. And I just want to see what happens now in the pick and ban phase. Are we going to see the same one? Because the bans before, SK banned Nidalee, Cassiopeia, and Maokai, while Copenhagen was banned LeBlanc, Diana, and Zed. So full target on the mid lane for them.
And is the Diana ban worth it? That is.
I don't think so. That was the one I would change if I could. Not saying I would ban out the Victor straight away, but I would be a lot more afraid of Victor compared to Diana from SK Gaming's side.
Right, we'll see if Copenhagen Wolves do decide to change that one. All 10 players are in the lobby, so with a little bit of luck, we should be getting into picks and bans in the not-too-distant future. In terms of champion picks and diversity, you know, Graves Annie, it's the same duo lane that the Wolves ran the last time they faced off against SK. For SK, Morgana support, not something we see at all on N-rated, in fact. It's Freddy that played at top lane, so
true.
A divergence from his standard champion picks.
Who's basically been Lulu, and that's been about it. Also Annie a few times, so
yeah,
I'm happy
7 games of Lulu, 3 games of Annie, 2 of Nami.
I'm happy to see he's changing up the style, and it's very clear SK Gaming coming back from IEM. They realized we need more champions that we can play on the top level, and we have to be able to adapt our strategy at least a little bit. They're still doing the 1-3-1, but to see how they're playing around Tristana and like, trying to fast push a tower with her whenever she gets the chance. They don't like instantly group on her. No, they allow for Given to set and farm. We saw yesterday on Tristana for him against Giants. Once you get to the late game, when you have an AD carry like Forgiven who's so good, he can win the games on his own basically for you at that time. So it's about getting him there. SK obviously had 3 dragons to 0 in the last one. Copenhagen Wolves kept trying to trade kills for objectives. Or, well, they didn't want to. Obviously, they wanted to get the kill fast and then thought they could defend in time, but they just couldn't because they were way too slow reacting to SK Gaming moving around the map.
Right, we'll see if SK can kick off the traditional lane swap and heavy pushing style once more. For Copenhagen Wolves, you can see Dentist on stage there now talking to the players. This is a difficult situation to be in. Complete remake. Psychologically drained, mentally drained.
It's been one game.
Playing on the stage.
It's been one game.
True, but let's be fair. We're all feeling the pressure and we were just watching.
That's true. I mean, it's never easy when there is a remake, but you have to get used to being able to play best out of 5s.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you're drained after one game, you're going to struggle in the playoffs.
Fair point.
So in this case, it should be fine for the teams in terms of, you know, the mentality and attitude and everything and whatever. It's more about, again, how do you adapt? Do you take a chance? Do you completely redo your composition compared to what you did before here and trying to catch SK off guard? Or did you feel like it was working okay, there's just 1 or 2 mistakes you had to fix, then suddenly you come with a work? I mean, that's the big discussion now. How do you play this game? Or do you just completely ignore everything that happened before and just kind of reset your mind? That also works for certain teams when you have these pauses here and resets. I mean, these guys are lucky. This was only half an hour. I've been sitting for like 1.5 hours, waiting and waiting and waiting. That's tough.
Well, fair enough.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, the remake of SK Gaming versus the Copenhagen Wolves is about to kick off, and as far as bans are concerned,
same as before, yeah. If Nidalee comes in for SK, it's exactly the same bans from them. Copenhagen Wolves would then have to ban Zed, and it is going to be the same deal for the teams. Nidalee is still not really an Airwax champion. He likes to be more on the engage front, typically. Now, obviously, now we have Fiss coming in, so I'm not sure if the SK will change that one. That was the only one we looked at and said, okay, this is not really an SK or Copenhagen Wolves style of pick.
And it's being discussed by SK. They have modified their strategy. Karthus is taken off the table. Rek'Sai as well as Nidalee are available. As you've mentioned, Zed was the previous ban by the Copenhagen Wolves at SK. Where will they diverge? Where will they change? 10 seconds left to go. What is your instinct, Visha?
Question is if they want to ban Victor now, have SK Gaming first pick that Zed potentially. We know Soren can play it, and if they did go for Zed, we might just see Ari being picked from Soren and into Zed. And if you build a new item, we keep hyping up Luden's Echo. It works pretty well in Ari as well, but that's a potential strategy from the Copenhagen Wolves. You can also just go the standard route, get like an early arm guard into a Morel Nomicon and play it that way. But Ari Zed is still very much a skill matchup. both these mid laners should know.
So, Copenhagen Wolves also modifying their approach to the game. Fiss was the jungle pick of choice for Airwax previously, but now Rek'Sai, Nidalee, all options that they can go for. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going down a different path in this remake. Kennen and Graves. So, Youngbuck most likely going to take that Kennen up into the top lane, and we'll see what he's going to be paired up against.
Yeah, still getting that Graves is important for Freeze. It means that SK Gaming doesn't really have a good matchup in the bottom lane. I mean, the only thing Forgiving could do was go Caitlyn, but it's not a champion that's worked for them traditionally because you can't really do anything in the mid game on that champion. So Tristana can still be the lock-in for him, and then we see the same lane swap coming in from SK Gaming's side, where Kennen should be able to pick up quite some farm, a bit like Lissandra beforehand. Obviously, Kennen is a little bit easier to dive, I think it's fair to say.
We will find out. Freeze on Graves. 4 games played, 2 wins, 2 losses. Got a KDA of 8.83. That's good stats. Deficio, fist pumping in the air. Rek'Sai, Morgana lock for SK. There is the Ahri for Soren. And Freeze will get his hands on Fizz once again. Rather, Airwax get his hands on Fizz, locked in by Freeze.
Airwax gets the Fizz. Can do the same one-on-one setup. Question is how is he going to do against the Zed? Because that's a very different matchup. Fizz normally outscales a Zed completely, and you can dodge his ulti, which means you're going to win that one-on-one fight, which is why I think Copenhagen Wolves are going to give that Zed over and not ban it this time around. And also you get that Ahri matchup in the mid lane now. So this is looking okay for them in terms of how to handle the split push. And obviously Youngbuck is not going to have any problems holding Svenskeren if they find each other in the side lane.
This is brave indeed. Corki locked in for Forgiven. This will be the first time we are seeing Corki in the LCS from him, but we did see it in Intel Extreme Masters last week, and I was not particularly elated to see the performance. So let's see how he handles himself. Yeah, I was trying to look for a different one. I was trying to, you know...
You're not impressed.
Broaden my horizon. Thank you for bringing it down, you know, to bronze level, but I mean, I was trying to break out a little bit.
Fair enough. I'm not really sure what SK Gaming is trying to build here with their composition. I personally was never really a big fan of like double protect the AD carry, then you're locking a Corki, unless you can really abuse your mid-game spike, which is what we see from other regions and why Corki is considered such a high pick over there. But at IEM, Corki lost nearly every game he played in, and he was picked in like 12 games in total. Teams simply got punished in the mid-game if they couldn't get ahead, and that's where Corki starts really falling off after. This setup here from SK Gaming, it's the same super standard 1-3-1. Morgana in the top lane works for them because you can push the lane over and over, and you get a lot of pressure on the tower. You like slowly chip it away, and because they pick Nami, that tells me this time around they want to do the 2v2 lane. Despite Corki being in a bit of a disadvantage against the Graves, just because you get that Nami, it kind of makes up at least a little bit for a fairly weak level 1-5. And because you got the Morgana, well, then again, Morgana is fantastic in a lane swap. So I guess SK Gaming has both options here. But it's going to be so much more about using that mid game for them now, where Copenhagen Wolves suddenly going into late game has a lot of burst damage, a lot of AoE coming in here. If you get caught in a bad team fight from SK Gaming side, you get blown up.
Well, we'll see whether or not anybody does get caught. Team compositions are locked in. Teams have gone a near 180 degrees from what we saw previously. Different styles, different options. And Morgana this time around in Freddy's hands, not in N-Rated. It also makes me wonder whether or not that Morgana was going to go to Freddy previously, and something spooked SK to give it to N-Rated. You never know. You never know. We will find out as we are jumping into this remake. So then, just once again, for anybody who may have just rejoined us, there was a visual bug regarding Victor's HP. Copenhagen Wolves paused, made the officials aware, and the decision was to remake the game. There are the revised team comps for SK versus Copenhagen Wolves game 2.0. Hashtag SK win, hashtag CW win. It has been a long time since we've seen the Rift here. And let's get back onto it for game 3 on day 2 on week 8 in the spring split of the LCS.
There we go.
Gotta get myself psyched back up to Fisher.
To the game now. So last time we had a lane swap from SK Gaming, where they managed to get that early tower. Freddy was heavily denied a lot of farm though. You won't be able to do the same against the Morgana. She's so good in a lane swap, just sitting there farming with her pool. She's hard to die because of the binding, because of the black shield. So in case there is a lane swap, then Freddy should feel a lot safer this time around than he was on the Heck run.
Soren missed.
He's out, that's it.
Just saying, just saying.
Got the ward down, so worth.
And no deep vision this time around from the Copenhagen Wolves. Opting to just go for that standard fan position. I think Forgiven was in that bush yesterday where Freeze is currently standing and got chased out an early flash by the Giants. Bit of trivia if you watched the game yesterday. Completely irrelevant to the current setup. But we do have a very defensive start into Fisher. It looks like we're going to get those 2v2s. You touched on the fact Graves slightly greater than Corki, but Nami in some ways slightly greater than Annie.
It's a more defensive lane from SK Gaming side here, but you can take some pretty good trades. All their early game advantage will be for the Copenhagen Wolves, however, with this Annie Graves lane, which is going to be the problem for SK. But you can see how they didn't go for Tristana because they wanted that 2v2 lane with Morgana in the top lane against Kennen, just pushing in Youngbok over and over. And we still have the same problem for the Wolves in the early game, where Fiss needs more time. He needs to get that Devour, get it stacking a little bit compared to Rek'Sai in terms of the early pressure. So SK Gaming will have that advantage around the mid lane if there's any small fights. And Copenhagen Wolves getting the Grump down here. Let's see how many minions they will miss. SK Gaming is doing the same on the Crooks for them.
And also important to note, because of the lack of lane swap, Airwax is not going to be able to get that early first blood, which allowed him to accelerate his jungle pathing. So, minions down. What's your call, Fisher?
Well, Forgiven got the small golem for himself, so he's gonna hit level 2 very fast, and not a good trade early from Unlimited, taking a lot of damage. Let's see who gets the push here. You need that last range minion down for the Wolves to hit level 2, seeing as they only missed one of the melee minions. Forgiven already got his, as he got the small golem, so no real push gonna happen here. There we go for the Copenhagen Wolves.
Bubble doesn't connect, and Rated's got level 2. We do see Forgiven Valkyring over to the side lane.
And that's
reason Unlimited push forward.
Not very good for Corki. There was this change where his W now cost 100 mana early. If you gotta use that at level 2, you're suddenly falling very far behind in terms of your mana pool, which you need to trade effectively.
Yeah, but all of the consumables from Unlimited have been used, so if Forgiven and Rated can stall this one out, maybe they can get some control. We'll see. Now time with a CS. Charm.
Oh, nice.
Dodge. Fox goes in. That was great play on the Zed. Managing to get out of range and actually just farming, basically ignoring Soren.
Keep in mind
the minion lane.
Zed starts with 3 potions, only the 2 of an Ahri, so he has that small sustain advantage. Svenska now down to this bottom lane, trying to go for them.
Are available. That's a double knockup from Sven. Freeze is exhausted. Unlimited gets a double stun onto Forgiven and Rated. Forgiven flashes forward, gets first blood. It's not over yet. Airwax does go for the Sea Stone Urchin Strike rather. Playful, Trickster, stun from Kennen. Auto attacks going out. One more plus the red buff. Gets the kill. 1-for-1 trade, and it goes to Airwax as well.
Yeah, perfect for him. He's really going to be important on this Fiss here, split pushing against the Zed in the late game. And once again...
Wow, Fox is on a mission. You see Svenska does not connect to the Prey Seeker. 110 hit points. Would have been close.
We're back though, and there's a lot of action in this early game here. 2 junglers, 1 win for the bottom lane, helping out Forgiven and Enrated in a fairly difficult matchup for them. This is super important. They got that early kill, pushing the wave. Notice how Freeze had to go back and just get a second Doran's Blade, while Forgiven can slowly but surely move towards his Phage. Once he gets the picture, I would assume the Phage. There we go. And meanwhile, great gank in the top lane here. Freddy on Morgana will always push that lane. He will always try and poke down your tower slowly. Knowing that was going to happen, Airwax just walked up there. Not sure if there was a ward spotting him. There's now at least for Freddy putting down 2 wards at once. Early kill though for the Fiss.
And correction if I'm wrong here, Svenska last time went for the challenging smite. This time around going chilling. Maybe I'm wrong. Can't recall at this point in time. Brain is a bit frazzled. But nevertheless, it is, of course, chilling smites for Svenska on that Stalker's Blade. Skirmisher Saber picked up for Airwax. He went for the Devourer upgrade, and with that attack speed dagger, looks to be going the same route.
Reddit been on point with the bubbles here. The very first trade was him bubbling Unlimited, really forcing a lot of potions. So he's doing a great job on this Nami early on. It's not easy landing a bubble with no slow being connected at first. Now this mid lane matchup here, because the Zed is getting the advantage over the Ahri, it might force an early arm guard, which really slows down your mid-game power on an Ahri here and your pick potential. Svenska now jumping in on Airwax. Wants to fight more.
Doesn't manage to get the knockup, but Fox manages to jump in. And again, Fox is just... Well, you can see why it was banned previously, right?
Very true.
On form at the moment.
Perfect start for him, also going triple longsword into the Cutlass and Brutalizer later. Always one of the lovely things on Zed. It's so much base attack damage. Let's see here, still a lot of trading. Keep in mind, SK Gaming got that early gank. Another bubble from Enraider. Okay, Q didn't connect him, forgiven his out of mana at this point here.
Had to use that Valkyrie once again. Freeze and Unlimited trading back and forth. This is a very violent lane between SK and Copenhagen Wolves. Everyone low on mana. Going to be relying on their basic auto attacks to keep themselves in this one. A large minion wave pushing towards Copenhagen Wolves, so they don't want to pick an extended trade. That minion damage adds up incredibly quickly. Level 6 Freddy going to have some extra tools to dodge what looked like an impending gank, but Airwax unable to find an opening and backs away.
You can see how Airwax is kind of afraid of going to the mid lane, also a bit tough to gank his Zed, but he knows that if Svenskan is nearby and they get in that 2-on-2 fight, then it will be very difficult for the Copenhagen Wolves to win it, especially now that we have this triple longsword as well. Ganking the Morgana is a little bit more safe, not easier, but just a bit safer for him. And also, again, he wants to try and stop this push from Freddy, who's always going to chip away in that tower. Svenskan, once again, he's spotting Airwax and going straight into him. Force him away, just deny this Fiss hit. You know he's going to go for that Devour. You know it takes time for him to scale up with it. Try and shut him down with this Rek'Sai early.
Well, smart play from Svenska and a change in playstyle from the previous game, but Lane's obviously helping out in that regard as well somewhat. Fox off to such a great start means he's always going to be able to back up Sven when they go for that invade, as we've already seen. Sven Skaren pitching a tent in the Copenhagen Wolves jungle. He's looking to steal his red buff.
And this is what he likes to do, and this is why SK Gaming picked the way they did in the pick and ban phase. That's why they went for Nami, that's why they went for Corki instead of Tristana, as we saw beforehand, because now you could have this Zed Ahri matchup where you have at least the chance, if you play it well, to get all the pressure early. That's what we see happening. It's pushing up. Top lane, we know Morgana is going to push that lane, so two side lanes, or Soul lane is pushing, opens up for Rek'Sai to come in for the ganks. Now, a lot of action in the bottom lane. That was a nice ulti from Svenska.
And Airwax is just trying to get out. Needed to blow everything to get clear. Svenskaren's Void Rush at level 6 versus the level 4 of Airwax. What a disparity between these two junglers.
Yeah, really perfect start for SK Gaming in terms of how Svenskan likes to play it. You can always invade if you have the stronger jungler and your lanes are pushing up. And suddenly there's no real backup to be seen, because imagine if Ahri leaves the mid lane, she's gonna lose 2 or 3 waves on that tower. And that's way too much XP and gold to give up here in the early game. So love the way SK Gaming has been playing it so far.
So very interestingly, despite the fact that we have different compositions, Airwax got an early kill, SK got an early dragon. Lanes going relatively evenly, despite Soren, of course, falling behind Fox a little bit. Fairly similar to the first version of this matchup, shall we say. We'll stop moving away from referencing Game 1 shortly. But 10 minutes on the clock. SK
People are going to be so confused when they watch the VOD. They're like, oh, that's the last game?
SK Gaming have got themselves a 600-700 gold lead. Warrior Enchantment picked up for Sven Skaren. Needlessly large Rod for Youngbuck in the top lane, stuck in that lane a little longer, plus the assist versus Double Doran's rings and lasting ones.
Did the same before on Lissandra. Sorry, now a reference back to that game again, but
it's hard not to.
Yeah,
it's really hard not to.
Done it before. He farms up to 1600 gold, goes back, and he gets that large Rod for himself. So rushing early Hourglass, quite like that into a Zed. Had it been against double AP, that's where we typically see like Abyssal coming in before an Hourglass. I've seen Haunting Guys if you want more lane pressure on the cannon, but I do feel like this is fine against the Zed, because you know he's going to come looking for you. You need that Hourglass early, because you're going to shine in the fights a lot more on the cannon now.
Oh, Youngbuck caught by the binding. Soul's Jackals is being charged. We do see the slicing Maelstrom up, but Youngbuck's the one that's in trouble. Chum the Waters is down. Airwax trying to land auto attack after auto attack. Playful Trickster's over, and he gets rooted again. Airwax does pick up the kill, thanks to the damage over time from that W. And Svenskeren cleans up. It's a 2-for-1.
But still, this game here still shows why Rek'Sai is so good and why you cannot take these early ganks if you don't know where the jungler is going to be. Svenskeren, second time he counter ganks. First time, he forced a flash from Airwax. Now he gets 2 kills for his team, 1 for Freddy, 1 for himself. Off to such a great start. He's already very far ahead. It's only going to get even worse now.
From Sven. And of course, Forgiven once again, shoving these lanes down. Got himself 96 CS to 85 of his opposite number. Bottom lane tower dropped to several hundred hit points.
That early gank was so important on this bottom lane. Forcing Freeze back, forcing him to go Dawn and Split until he had enough gold for that BS sword. Really giving the whole lane advantage. And also full credit to Enrated, landing some great bubbles in all these early trades.
Consistently catching Freeze out. Couple more attacks. And SK Gaming take down the first tower to back up their first dragon. And obviously sit in a kill advantage. Sven spotted out by the ward, I believe.
They pinged him at least.
Yeah.
I think they saw him. Oh, he's going on Soren.
Fox is looking in. Deathmark is down. No crossbows yet. Pops and Fox even makes it out. Dodges the stun. Tibbers comes out from Unlimited. Limited's going to be a little careful. Doesn't have the support yet from Airwax. Another dodge up in the top lane. Young Buck's in trouble and he just gets munched alive. I'm imagining that started with another Dark Binder connecting. Young Buck simply not having a great day.
It started again
at the moment.
With Morgana simply just pushing that lane against Kennen. Nothing he can do in return to stop it. Setting up an easy dive for Svenskeren. And SK Gaming are looking even better now in this early game. We were talking about, Sana was talking about Svenskeren on the analyst desk. We talked about it around IEM. He's not really been performing lately too well. Now he's really showing what he can do. Once again, he gets that Rek'Sai. And because the lanes are playing correctly as well, he's a push for him so he can invade. He's been taking full advantage of it.
And also, what a difference looking at Fox now on Zed. Yes, Victor's a different champion. He's not going to have that same sort of lane presence and sort of outplay potential, but Fox is super aggressive. He's been in Soren's face the entire time, chasing him down, trying to shove him out of lane. I think Soren's doing a decent job of farming, considering every time we look there, Fox is in his face.
Look what he's doing. He's going for Luden's Echo. That's the only reason you get that large rod early. It's a bit like some of the other mid lane champs. We've seen it as a first item. It gives you a lot of extra burst. So top lane, I think you were correct about the binding. Yeah, right in the face of Young Buck. And then it's a fairly simple dive from here. I don't even think there was an ulti ready for Kennen. But Luden's Echo means that what Soren is going to try and do is simply say, I'm going to fight fire with fire here. I'm just going to have as much damage as possible and see if I can blow you up. No defensive items from him. It's a bit of a risky route, but it will again give him some more burst damage in the first few levels or early game to mid game with the magic damage coming in.
I think it is brave considering the way Fox is currently handling himself. He's already shown he can dodge skill shots in this game, which is what matters. Abyssal Scepter completed for Freddy in the top lane. Ninja Tabai wrapped up for Sven as he sits in the middle lane with Forgiven and Unrated. Remember, SK style. Push down outer turrets, get control of Dragon, push down inner turrets. That seems to be the game of the day.
Yeah, get a 40-min Trinity Force and you push even faster. So really great start for them. Every lane has won from SK Gaming side, one way or the other. And very big thanks to Svenskeren for really showing up on this Rek'Sai.
Yeah, what a difference.
Invading on the face. This again, the difference is that now you got to see that pick, you got to see what it could do early on, and you can kind of tailor your strategy around it.
Information is the name of the game. We do see Copenhagen Wolves now trying to defend. SK stealing away the jungle camps, keeping Airwax down even further. Level 9 to level 8, 57 to 43. And SK gonna get position on the Dragon.
Should be losing a top tower unless Freddy's gonna teleport to the top lane. He has done it before. We see the same setup. He's gonna push out his wave. He walks into the mid lane when they're doing that dragon, and then he walks back up to the lane after. So I'm not really able to push it too much with just a small wave. Svenskeren is also there to defend. The same setup, you save the teleport, and you still have 5 members around that dragon. And it is spotted here. Svenskeren was friendly enough to tell him, I have seen you. Please back away.
So Svenskeren trying to defend the tower. Does eat a charm for his trouble. Soren does not commit further despite having some backup in the river. It looks like Enrated's moving up to help defend. Not needed though, Sven's got the wave clear.
So we can see how Soren has kind of moved out of the Z lane because he's not building any armor, so he has no defensive items. He was hoping to be a one-on-one against Freddy, but SK Gaming can move the lanes around like they want to now. They got all the auto turrets down. They keep putting Z into Ahri if they want to here, or they can just put Freddy to say, we're just going to save farm, we don't really care. And try and create a play in the bottom lane because at the moment, Airwax shouldn't be strong enough to win the fights in the split push. He wants to really stack up first on the Devour. He wants to get a bit of armor as well. He's going to look for the fight though. Youngbuck is trying to bait it. So they know SK is going back to 1-3-1. See how they put Fred in the top lane here just to sit nice and safely. And Luden's Echo is completed for Soren. So basically what you do is, you have 100 stacks when you are supposed to start the one-on-one. So on obviously the first spell you get the 100 damage, 125, I believe it is at this point. And then, because you do your 3 Spirit Rushes, that's 3 abilities, you have your W, you stack it up to 100 again extremely fast, so you're gonna get at least 2 procs doing your combo. And that's where that extra burst damage, like Luden's Echo as the first item, it's the one that gives you the most damage possible, because it gives you the 100 extra magic damage, which is so big. However, it makes you so squishy, and if you do get caught by the likes of a bubble...
Soren gets caught by the bubble! Enrated lands another! We do see Rocket Barrage from Forgiven coming out. Soren forced to dash, rush, flash away, but he makes it out. SK, can they take more from this? Minions are not with them, but they do have wards and they do have control of the Copenhagen Wolves jungle.
Pushing in again now, everyone walking down here. You got the lanes under control. Kennen is in the bottom lane. There's a ward for him to teleport to. Let's see if Yama want to fight once Soren is back. However, he has no ulti. Just also slowly pushing in. You got that Trin Devotion. Get the Sheen procs.
Well, that's going to be a tower down. Copenhagen Wolves are not looking to initiate.
Gonna try and
no
get a
reaction from
lane.
Youngbuck. And Freddy TP's bottom to defend their own tower.
It's falling apart right now.
5,000 gold, Officio. 4 towers to 0 at 18 minutes. The earlier power spike timing of SK, much more in line with their playstyle. Chilling Smite is out. Youngbuck, Slicing Maelstrom is available. When does he pull the trigger? Does he need to pull the trigger? Forced to flash away from what would have been another bubble from Enrated, and just really, really strong play from SK. Moving through the jungles, moving lane to lane.
Soren is back in his top lane. There's a big wave this time, and nobody's here to defend, so he should be able to get the tower this time around. But you're still giving up 4 already. You gave up a tier 2. Never mind. I mean, there's just another one. Svensson coming. Ah, okay, he could have gotten that one. He didn't have to back away here. Playing a little bit too careful from Soren's side, but obviously easier for us to say because we can see the whole thing.
This is actually an interesting dilemma. Or not dilemma, an interesting insight into SK Gaming. You know, had this been a best of 5, let's say hypothetically the game had played out and, you know, teams wanted to play the next set, SK have really shown a different approach to the game in contrast to previously. Much more aggressive, different picks, much more in the face, and it's working out.
They show different picks, but the same style.
Yeah,
it's always the same deal here for them. Now, this is the duel we've looked for.
Deathmark does get dodged. Airwax forced to fight.
Oh, beautiful.
Close from Fox. Close from Fox. The face plant we shall ignore thanks to the follow-up Shadow Slash damage.
Yeah, Airwax not strong enough yet to take this fight, and that it really is again another problem for the Copenhagen Wolves. They got nobody to hold this Z. And just to go back to my point before with Ahri and Luden's Echo, remember I said as a first item, it's one of the best in terms of how much damage you can do. Just so people don't jump on Twitter and say, no, Deathcap late game gives you way more. First item.
You need not worry about that, Deficio. Your calls are not in question. Youngbuck, 163 CS. Got that Sorcerer Shoes plus Hourglass completed. Has had for a little while. We've not seen him use his ultimate positively yet for the team. Copenhagen Wolves have been playing so reactive and so defensive. They have to make up a lot of ground. Not a single tower to their name. No dragons. And barely able to farm their own jungle. It's difficult to see how Copenhagen Wolves come back into this game without strong vision and punishing SK unawares.
Yeah, they're gonna have to invest into pink wards in their own jungles. So whenever they're pushing back the waves, like we see Soren trying to do here, you can still walk through your own jungle and don't have to risk SK Gaming suddenly sitting there and just killing you. Because you know SK is going to sit in the lane, so you get information on them, say, okay, they're in the lanes right now. As long as we can quickly rotate between lanes ourselves, we can defend. You're not going to stop a dragon at this point. You got to give that one over. But that's where between these dragons spawning, between the 3rd and the 4th, that's where you got these 5 or 6 minutes to try and create a play. And then you're simply looking for SK to make a mistake. If you see one of them backing away from one of the lanes, that's where you quickly go and try and set up a 2v1 or 3v1 gank on the likes of Freddy. Here's the 2v1.
Well, let's see what they can do. Chum does connect. Freddy's thrown out Soul Shackles. Airwax is in trouble. Freddy's not down yet. We do see the Tormented Soul hopped away from but Charm doesn't connect, nor does the Orb of Deception. And Freddy survives the 1v2 and allows SK to secure their 3rd dragon.
And that really was the setup we just talked about here. You cannot fight for dragons, so you gotta try and create a play somewhere. 2v3, 1v3, whatever. They didn't get the kill. Sven's gonna have to look for something.
By the charm, the Tibbers comes down. Soren's out of mana.
They gotta run now.
And Sven needs to back away. Can they get away? Copenhagen Wolves in full retreat. There is a flash available for Soren. Enraged is coming up. There's a tidal wave to follow. Look at the vision. Have no sight on the Copenhagen Wolves. Enraged throws out the bubble. It's been flashed away. I think that's a decent tidal wave. The Blade of the Ruined King, plus some more AoE. And Fox cleans house.
So in the flame there, the coach of SK Gaming getting very hyped. Dentist not gonna be too happy about this one. Would have been weird at least if he was super hyped. Yay, my teammate died.
Well, it wasn't the case. We did see Freddy teleporting down to the bottom lane after surviving the 1v2. SK punish Wolves once more and look to secure another tower.
It's so tough to do anything. Once you fall behind to so many split pushing threats, teleport and a Rek'Sai ulti. I mean, yes, you try and control the side lanes, but you just can't. There are too many ways for SK to defend, and they have all the time in the world here to decide. Now Airwax is gonna go for the one-on-one.
Freddy. Jungle Watchers is out. Black Shield absorbs some of that damage.
Nice dodge.
Good dodge from the playful Trickster. He's going to be going in blind if he continues to chase. Urchin Strike connects. Multiple auto attack on the Sea Stone Trident. One more needed. And Airwax runs Freddy down. Golf claps from the audiences. It's not the greatest assistance. It helps. Every little bit helps.
That was the perfect play.
Every little bit helps. Doesn't result in anything else.
No, but this is the best you can hope for, because now you have 5 guys against the 4 from SK, so you should be able to push down and at least get the wave down to the towers, and again buy you more time, because you're still waiting for Airwax to really become stronger and stronger. We see how good he is in the one-on-one, so we know Freddy can't hold him. It's gonna have to be either the Rek'Sai just trying to sit and like keep him at bay and then use his ulti to help his team. That's not going to work either from SK, so the Zed is going to be the one. And we know late game what's going to happen. If Airwax used Trickster correctly, we can beat Zed in a one-on-one.
Oh, Enrated's bubbles are on form this game. They need to steal away that Raptor, but look at this. 2 members of Copenhagen Wolves down in the bottom half of the map means SK can start this Baron. Sven is taking those spikes sitting in behind. There is a flash from Youngbuck. He's not even going to need it, in fact, as he does get into range. Flashes finally, exhausted as he throws down the slicing maelstrom. The damage is mitigated. Freeze looking to set up more, but he just gets minced by the Dark Binding. SK Gaming grab 2 easy kills and a Baron. In reply, Wolves get their 2nd tower of the game.
Yeah, Wolves should just have given up that Baron here. As soon as Soren showed in the bottom lane, that was an easy call for SK. Another ulti from Svensken, ready to defend. Soren has to back away once again.
Doesn't connect. Soren's in trouble. Spirit rushed once, Spirit rushed a second time. Sven is chasing. When does he cast the burrow? That's the question. Prey Seeker tags. There is support from Enrated far away. Flash into knock-up, into bite. Tibbers comes down from Unlimited. Now Unlimited's in retreat. Gonna find the support of Airwax as Sven gets a secondary knock-up. Chum the Waters throws. It connects with the Queen of the Xerxai. Playful Trickster up. Airwax continues to throw down the damage. He's now burrowed. Enrated looking to connect with another bubble. Cooldown, is it available? The answer is no. Now it's a fish-on-fish battle as Sushi is on the retreat. Enrated gets the slow. He's flashed, looking for more. Connects, but I think the E timed out. Trying to get in range. Here comes Fox. Here comes Freddy. Airwax is in trouble, and he does get away. Ignis Slash didn't connect, but Youngbuck eats a bubble in one of the longest chases in League of Legends. SK get a string of kills and set themselves up for another potential tower.
Yeah, everything is just going their way. I mean, the 4 kills for Copenhagen Wolves are all onto Airwax at this point. Nobody else can really do anything. Soren not going to show us a whole lot of his Ari with this new build. Just got soloed by, obviously, an extremely fit and Baron buff Rek'Sai.
Definitely the case. 4-1-4 on Svenskeren. Warmog, Spirit Visage, Warriors Enchant, Jungle Item. Tower number 6 falls. Approaching 10k, and SK have just put a flag with the blue and white of the SK logo in the jungle of Copenhagen Wolves.
You can even see how they're just aiming for the massive mid-game spike. Forgiven went back and got a last whisper. That's normally not a very good early item on a Corki, but because he had to go for it, that's what gives you the most value, just right there before they started their Baron. That's why he bought it, just to continue fighting, knowing we're winning the split push war here. Even against the Fiss at this point, let's just keep pushing our advantage.
And I really think somebody needs to give Enrated such praise. The bubbles that he has landed consistently this entire game has allowed SK to chase and get multiple kills over and over and over. SK now with the relentless siege. 5-man strong in the middle lane, waiting for those Baron-empowered minions to knock on the Wolves' inhibitor turret.
With Fnatic losing earlier today, H2K losing yesterday, they should make it almost guaranteed for SK a top 2 spot. I know at least they are playing Medium Makers next week, a game they should obviously be able to win as well, and then sit in one of these playoffs positions where you will go straight into the semi-final. No reason to play quarterfinals. You have a bye in the first week. Obviously playing for a trip to Madrid.
That's it.
Oh, you basically guaranteed because the 3rd and 4th place as well.
Spring Split finals in Madrid. SK Gaming showing that when they get to play their game, very little that can stand in their way. Dragon number 4 secured at the 27-minute mark. 6 minutes timer, ticking time bomb. Hell, it's not even a ticking time bomb. SK don't even need it. That could be the final nail in the coffin, basically.
Yeah, if they don't manage to push into the base here, because now again the Copenhagen Wolves can move between inhibitors, so it's fairly easy for them to move around. You just wait for that last dragon. Once you get it, you are so strong and you have so much damage on towers that a Corki with a Trinity Force is just gonna walk up, give it a few hits, and it's down to 50%. So SK Gaming here, they don't even need to create a play. Can wait for that last dragon. Baron, it's gonna spawn as well before. Otherwise, I mean, just do the same 1-3-1. Be careful though, you're not pushing the lane a little bit too early here. You don't have pressure in any other lane.
This is confidence if
you need the mid lane pushing up first, at least before you want to do this.
Oh, I think he's going to go in. Chum the Waters connects. Playful
it. There we
tricks
go.
as well as Deathmark.
No
It's a
ulti.
battle of dodges. They've traded back and forth. Frozen Heart is up. Fox is in retreat. No emotion from either of the coaches there.
Nobody died. Beautiful little dodge from Airwax on the
well as
Deathmark.
Fox, to be fair.
Sure. Getting out of it. We'll buy a bit more time for the Wolves. Honestly, for SK, just do 1-4 setup now. You don't really need all 3 lanes pushing at this point, because you're just buying time for that Baron to respawn anyway. So if you just push the mid and the top lane, kind of like they were trying to do, you can just walk into the jungle of Copenhagen Wolves, place down these few deep wards you're gonna need, wait for Baron to respawn, bait out a fight again, you get the 5 versus 5, or you get the free Baron.
20 stacks on that Devourer buff from Airwax. Got himself plus 45 bonus magic damage. I can keep track of it as it's not a normal jungle item. 10,000 gold difference in 30 minutes, as we've already highlighted. And SK simply waiting for those primary objectives of Dragon and Baron that will unlock access to the inhibitor turret. Have maintained near absolute control of the Wolves jungle. I mean, from the minute 1 of this game, Svenskeren was invading, stealing camps with the help of Fox. Forgiven is going to use that Mercurial Scimitar.
Very early.
Drop the fish where it stands. Maniac caught up. Soren looking for Enrated. Not able to actually secure the kill yet. Does recommit. Does get knocked up in the air. Enrated with a prediction bubble doesn't connect. But Tibbers locks up Svenskeren. Now Freddy gets a 3-man Soul Shackles, and everybody from the Wolves is forced to split. The Hourglass is out and Sven is pulling 3. Can he get the kill? The answer is no. Youngbuck dropped in the back line. As Fox does still have Deathmark available
Look at
all the
Forgiven,
while.
though.
Forgiven shoving down the top lane. They trade 1-for-1, but Forgiven's the one that gets the objective pressure. He's got the assistance of Enrated.
Pushing in Airwax doesn't really have a whole lot of wave play he can offer, but he might try and go in. No QSS for Forgiven this time around. No ulti either for Airwax then.
Almost developed. Just came off cooldown, Officio. But I think it is too late, unfortunately. No Spirit Rush. Let's see, where is Airwax? No Home Guards. Going to take him a little bit of time to make his way in. But SK have unlocked the first avenue into the Wolves base, and it is the top lane turret. Look at all of the wards in that area of the jungle, and with 3 seconds till Baron, that could be the way in.
So, Soren trying to get a pick on Enrated, but he simply doesn't have the damage for it. Enrated even went for Righteous Glory, so he's pretty tanky on this Nami here. Freddy with a great ulti. Jambak not really managing to do a whole lot on this cannon. It's obviously been set so far behind. SK Gaming can at least get a 1-for-1. Meanwhile, Corgi is pushing, so that was a 4v5 going even.
Copenhagen Wolves stalling marginally, but with the exposed inhibitor base, one more mistake and SK Gaming will have access to super minions. Ward cleared out in the Baron pit, and as predicted Officio, with Baron live, SK seems to have set their sights on the objective. Did Airwax get his hands on red? It actually went to Sven.
Sven got
went
it,
to
yeah.
Sven. Cheeky.
Well, he's been taking pretty much everything away from Airwax today.
But we shouldn't be surprised with a 50 CS difference between the two at the moment, right?
The greedy Dane in the jungle. Copenhagen was trying to respond and get a mid tower, at least push it in and move SK away from this Baron here. Kind of open up for them to come in and try and clear this pink ward. Problem is, SK is still around. We might see a fight for it.
SK were a little bit split up. Youngbuck barely dodging the dark binding from SK, but a tidal wave is down. Don't know if that's the end of the world for SK considering how far they are ahead, but any advantage that the Wolves can garner, they will take. 33 minutes, SK continuing to play the Baron dance. I feel like we've gone back to the 2014 season. We'll see how long SK decides to dance. The answer is not very long.
Oh, they want to force a fight here. Freddy's going to the bottom lane because it's pushing up, but he's at least getting close to it. Realizing there might have been a fight happening, so they just want this wave pushing out. But as long as they defend the pink wards, they can keep Copenhagen Wolves around here, and then it's just a matter of time before you land a binding, or you get that opening to really take the Baron, while Copenhagen Wolves have to go somewhere else, or someone has a bad recall timing. So they keep staying around. It's still going to be a while before this wave hits the tower. Obviously, Freddy should be the guy going back and defending it.
Luckily for the Wolves, the top lane is also going to be pushing towards SK.
Oh, they can rush it here. So if Copenhagen want to trade for that 5th dragon, Baron for SK.
Revealed by the dragon. The Wolves have not started it
will.
yet. They're trading dragon number 1 at 30 minutes, which is going to be immensely valuable. 6% at this stage with several hundred AP, AD, etc. It's going to be very, very useful. But have they given up too much? Baron secured by SK Gaming, as well as having an exposed inhibitor, as well as having faster recall times. It's a tough choice, but the Wolves made it.
Yeah, I think it was okay, honestly. You are so far behind at this point, and SK could keep dancing around that Baron for such a long time. Now, with the 6% and no 5th dragon for SK, it's still a bit of... I wouldn't call it an even fight. But at least the Copenhagen Wolves are in a better situation than against the 5 dragon up, buffed up SK Freddy.
Oh, Airwax is in trouble.
Gonna get a kill.
So much for being able to 1v1 Freddy. Hourglass wasn't even needed. Inhibitor is going to be secured here by SK. Copenhagen Wolves not committing to this fight at all. Teleports to the middle lane. SK with the Baron-empowered minions. They're going for another one to Fisher.
We'll be able to get that one as well. Airwax 25 seconds. He's the guy with all the kills. Well, I'm lying to you. Free's got 1 kill for himself. So now the base is completely open. This has just been such a standard SK Gaming game. They are controlling the laning phase. They get all the outer turrets early. They do the 1v1 setup. And it's just so tough to respond to. Once you fall behind just one lane, that's where it becomes nearly impossible, at least for some of the teams here in Europe, to to beat SK Gaming.
Nexus turret has dropped. Super minions in 2 lanes. Forgiven actually flashing away from the charm. Youngbuck is trying to get in range. The slicing Maelstrom does get a few, but is exhausted and the damage is mitigated. In the backline, Fox is pulling the attention of several members, but it's in fact Youngbuck that is down after the golden hourglass of Soren pops. Svenskeren tries to run him down. Burrows, unburrows, does not get the knockup, but does sink the fangs. And Svenskeren picks up another kill. 5, 2, and 5. Inner Flame waiting for the inevitable. Dentist. We have a lot to talk about with his team after this one.
Yeah, Copenhagen was 0-2 now this week here. Elements getting closer and closer. They play Gambit later. If they can win that one, suddenly we have quite a fight. Now Airwax will die another time.
Yet another kill as Airwax goes down. SK Gaming convincingly defeat the Copenhagen Wolves. Fend off the Fishy Fizz. And firmly grasp onto first place on the table in the regular split.
Yeah, 2 wins now, down to H2K and Fnatic under them in the standings. Looking great for SK Gaming, and really full credit to them. They changed up the style a little bit. They banned away the Karthus this time around, got a skill matchup in the mid lane, won it, and really used this Rek'Sai early game so well to simply shut down Airwax and the rest of Copenhagen Wolves.
So the Copenhagen Wolves now are in a position where they have 7 wins and 9 losses. They are 1 victory ahead of Elements, who are 6 wins and 9 losses. So if Elements, as you already said, and we have highlighted, beat Gambit later today, then that means there is a tie for that position, and the head-to-head, I believe, is also even.
Yeah.
So that would force a tiebreaker for that 6th and final position. Gambit currently are in 5th position, 8 wins and 7 losses. So that Elements game is equally important because it then puts them 1 game out of being 6th, maybe 7th position. So that, you know, final few slots in the playoff bracket,
A lot of things are still happening.
is very, very scary.
All across the board, we're looking at relegation zone. There are a few teams fighting. Elements is still in that race, by the way.
Yeah.
For around the relegation spots, Rocket Giants and MYM obviously as well. And then SK Gaming sitting pretty secure, we think we can say, as number 1. But then you got to get that second top 2 between Fnatic and H2K. You got the mid-game positions here. A lot of fighting going on, and that's just awesome because it means for week 9, every game is going to count.
And you cannot discount anybody, no matter how high or how low they are on the standings. So SK Gaming pick up another win against Copenhagen Wolves. This was a remake, and we just want to reiterate why the game was remade. So there was a visual bug on Victor, who was being played by SK Gaming's Fox. That made his health bar flicker between full and empty during a very important team fight. After the fight, the Wolves noticed the effect that the misinformation had and paused the game. Reported it to our officials, and our officiating team then confirmed the bug's presence in-game. And since it had an impact on the match, the Wolves were offered the remake, which is a policy outlined in the LCS rules. So we have determined that this is a champion-specific bug. Victor will be disabled until further notice going forward. Just want to let everybody know, SK Gaming come back after the remake. They were in the lead for the first time round. Not as sizable, not as noticeable. But in the remake, a much more convincing victory, and they go 13-3 on the split.
Looking good for them now. I mean, Giants yesterday was a very shaky performance. They lost the early game there. Didn't look like SK Gaming. Now today, with this game and this win over Copenhagen Wolves, they are still playing the same style. It can still work here. We're going to have to see around the playoffs if other teams here can build a strategy around it, because you know what SK Gaming is going to do. It's not suddenly going to change from day to day.
That's the interesting thing. That, you know, we kept saying it, and I said it yesterday as well, but the roadmap, the plan, the way to beat SK was clearly exposed at the Intel Extreme Masters in terms of strategy, in terms of picks and bans. We've just watched 2 games back to back. We watched yesterday's game. SK consistently do the same thing, but they do it at such a high level, it's very, very difficult to counteract it. We'll see if anybody can figure it out as we get closer to wrapping up the split. For now, it is time to step on stage where Pyrotechnics is standing by with SK's Svenskeren.
Thank you very much for that one, guys. Of course, I am with Svenskeren, the victorious Svenskeren. First of all, congratulations on your win. You are now 13-3, you guys, still remaining the top spot in the LCS going into playoffs. But first thing, big question I want to ask you guys, because everyone's been talking about the jungle, a lot of the crazy stuff we expect to see on this new patch. Did you expect the jungle Fizz, to be honest, especially with the Devourer skirmishers?
I didn't really expect it. I thought he would, especially in the second game, I thought he would go for like Nidalee when it was open, because I consider Nidalee and Rek'Sai to be like tier 1, so it was kind of surprising.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of a lot of different things popping up. What do you personally think is very strong? I know you'd picked the Rek'Sai, it was obviously open, still the top on a lot of people's sites, but what are your personal expectations to see in the coming weeks?
Since we were at IEM, we didn't really have time to play on 5.5, so we kind of just prepared for 5.4, because it still seems like the best junglers are still Rek'Sai and stuff like that, so didn't really play so much on 5.5 yet.
So it's definitely some things to work out there. And speaking of IEM, you did talk about that. I wanted to bring this one up because you looked a little shaky there, and then you come back, and obviously you beat Giants yesterday, but it was far from the surgical victory we've been expecting from you. Today, however, especially in the remake, you guys looked incredibly strong again. How confident are you after that performance going into the playoffs?
Yesterday was, I would say Giants is pretty good, especially at roaming, so it kind of caught us off by surprise, I'll say. But I think after IEM, we kind of look into our champion pools and like improving everything as in general. So I think we're just going to be a stronger team after the IEM.
That's good. The international experience always good for those teams. Now, that's enough for us down here. We're going to step it back up to the analyst desk where Cyanide and Shocks are ready to break that down.
Yeah, we're still here. Thank you so much, Pyrotechnics, and those words from Svenskeren. I want to go back to that Fizz because I think it's a little odd that Airwax would go back to picking it. We heard from you and Kikis how it's pretty hard in the early game, and he knew he's going to have a hard time, especially versus Rek'Sai. I just don't really get it.
I just think it was a strategy. They practiced a lot, like going with the Fiss split push and that way winning the game, but it didn't work out in any of these games, mostly because SK was just tactically the superior team, and every time they tried to go for a pick, SK just capitalized and pushed, and even though they managed to get some kills sometimes, the execution was not flawless and they just lost the objectives.
Yeah, it's very odd to me, especially since the game was remade. And do you think it was a case of we only made this one strategy, we have to go with it? Because I feel like SK adapted a little bit more and always wanted to show a little bit more.
In the first game, it didn't go that bad with the Fizz pick, so I think they just thought that, all right, we are just going to do it a bit better this time and it's going to work and we're going to win, but it was the opposite.
Yeah, it was. What did you make of SK Gaming? Let's take this second game, so the final game, and then the game yesterday, and just kind of their curve after IEM and going into that first place spot.
I think today, in the second game now, the SK actually played really good. It's the SK we are used to seeing Svenskeren putting a lot of early pressure, like we saw him at the start of the split, and not just being AFK. So it's definitely a step in the right direction.
All right, yeah, I'm still scratching my head about the Fizz pick, actually. And then N-rated, we had a little bit of comments on him during IEM, the fact that he's very good on that Lulu, he's not very good on that Annie, and also the same thing for Forgiven and maybe his champion pool. But the thing is, for an AD carry, they've all played all these AD carries a million times probably in solo queue and in teams. How do you think that is realistically going to affect him? Because he could have gone something else here, yet he wanted to go for that Corki.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that he actually didn't go for the Lucian. Maybe it's something like you don't want to pick Lucian in the Graves. They have respect for the Copenhagen Wolves bot lane, so they were not that confident in the matchup, so he went for the Corki instead. Could be something like he was just spamming other ADs this last week, practicing them because they obviously saw the problem they were having at IM.
Yeah, had to level it up a little bit. The same for N-rated, who we've criticized for a bit, as I said, now going for that Nami. Do you see a growth of N-rated of the time that you played with him and now, or maybe a difference in the way that he plays the game?
When I was playing with him, N-rated was just really known for his Leona and initiate aggressive plays, and now he's playing the more passive support, so he's like totally changed his playstyle. I don't know why, but he has.
Yeah, he has, and it must be a confidence booster for him as well, because Nami is, of course, a high-skill champion. Also, my favorite champion in the game, so I'm always happy when that gets picked. But for the Copenhagen Wolves here, this was such a crucial week for them. How will this taint them going into the next weeks? Because it seemed like the thing we had praised them for before are still there. Like, Youngbuck is doing better in lane, it's going better for them. RX can make things happen. Soren has had some good games, but it seems like it's falling apart just before the playoffs, or, getting to the playoffs, rather.
Yeah, honestly, this game, I think the problem was they were like wolves hunting in a pack, and they got punished for that. Just SK pushing down the turrets, taking the objectives, and wolves not managing to get enough like money and XP with those kills, so they just fell behind and lost.
Yeah, we will see how they can well, crank that up if they go into the next week if they want to secure that playoff spot. Well, coming up after the break, Roccat will try and pick up their second win against Giants as they look to protect their spot in the summer split. That's all happening in just 3.5 minutes. We'll see you then.
Copenhagen Wolves at a record of 7 and 8 really cannot afford to lose games.
Now, this is the duel we've looked for.
Deathmark does get dodged. Airwax forced to flank. Oh! Airwax is in trouble, and he does get away. Ignis Slash didn't connect, but Youngbuck eats a bubble. Tibbetts locks up Svenskeren. Now Freddy gets a 3-man Soul Shackles, and everybody from the Wolves is forced to split, flashing away from the charm. Youngbuck is trying to get in range. His Slicing Maelstrom does get a few, but is exhausted and the damage is mitigated. SK Gaming convincingly defeat the Copenhagen Wolves.